Lies of P. It's one of those games that takes a classic story and flips it into something totally unexpected. I mean, a dark, twisted version of Pinocchio? Who saw that coming? From the moment I started playing, I knew this wasn't going to be the fairy tale we all grew up with. Instead, it throws you into this grim, steampunk world where everything feels eerie and dangerous. The atmosphere is on point. There's this constant tension in the air, like you're never quite safe, even when you're just walking through a quiet alley. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and if you've played Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you'll feel right at home here. The combat is that familiar, deliberate style, where every swing of your weapon matters, and timing is everything. But Lies of P adds its own twist, with the weapon customization system. You can mix and match blades and handles to create your own combos, which gives you a ton of freedom to experiment with different builds. It's honestly so satisfying when you find a combination that just clicks with your playstyle. The enemies are no joke. Each one feels like a real threat, and you can't just rush in and expect to button mash your way through. You've got to be patient, learn their patterns, and strike when the moment is right. And the bosses? They're some of the most intense encounters I've had in a while. Every time I thought I was getting the hang of things, a new boss would come along and completely wreck me. But in the best way. It's that feeling of frustration followed by pure joy when you finally take them down. If you're into challenging combat, Lies of P is definitely worth your time. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Honestly, this game is one of the most fun entries in the whole Assassin's Creed series. I feel like it doesn't get talked about as much as it should, but the second you start running around Victorian London as Jacob or Evie Fry, you realize just how much of a blast it is. Syndicate nails the feel of 1860s London in a way that's just incredible. You've got the foggy streets, the towering landmarks like Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament, and that gritty industrial vibe where factories are pumping smoke into the sky. The attention to detail is nuts. You can literally ride horse-drawn carriages through the city or scale the rooftops and just take in the view. It really makes you feel like you've been dropped right into that time period. And the fact that you get to switch between two protagonists, that was such a smart move. Jacob and Evie have totally different vibes, and it keeps things fresh. Jacob's all about getting his hands dirty and brawling with enemies, while Evie's more of a stealthy, strategic assassin. I loved switching between them, depending on the mission, or how I felt like playing. And the sibling dynamic between them is just great. The combat in Syndicate feels super smooth too. It's fast, it's brutal, and it's a lot of fun, especially when you're just diving into a group of enemies and throwing punches. Plus, the new grappling hook, total game changer. 1 second you're on the street, the next you're ziplining across rooftops like Batman. It's the most fun I've had with movement in an AC game for sure. At the end of the day, this game is just fun. Guardians of the Galaxy. This one's interesting because it kind of had everything going for it, but for some reason, it didn't hit as big as people expected at launch. I mean, you've got one of the most beloved Marvel teams, a great developer, Eidos Montreal, and a focus on single-player storytelling, which is something a lot of people were craving, but when it dropped, it just didn't make the splash it should have. So, what happened? Well, for one, people were still feeling the aftershocks of Marvel's Avengers. That game didn't really land well with fans, and it made a lot of people skeptical about Guardians. Folks saw another Marvel game and thought, here we go again with another live service mess. Even though Guardians of the Galaxy is nothing like that. It's a totally single-player, story-driven experience with zero microtransactions or live service elements. But it got lumped in with Avengers, and that hurt its initial reception. Now let's talk about the controversial stuff. The characters. Some fans were thrown off because the game's versions of Star-Lord, Gamora, and the rest of the crew didn't look or sound like their MCU counterparts. If you're used to Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, or Zoe Saldana as Gamora, it might take you a second to adjust to these new interpretations, but once you do, you realize they're actually great. The writing is sharp, the dialogue is hilarious, and the chemistry between the Guardians is spot on. It feels like you're right there with them, and the banter between the team is one of the best parts of the game. The combat also got mixed reactions. Some people found it a little chaotic at first. Batman Arkham Knight. If you're into Batman even a little bit, this one really delivers. It's the final entry in the Arkham series, so there's a lot riding on it. And let me tell you, it wraps things up in the most satisfying way. First off, the gameplay. You're not just playing as Batman, you're feeling like Batman. The fluid combat, the way you can string together attacks, counters, gadgets. It's also smooth. Honestly, once you get the hang of it, you feel like a superhero, effortlessly taking down waves of thugs. It's like the perfect balance of tactical and badass. And then there's Gotham City. I mean, this is the Gotham I've always imagined. The atmosphere is spot on. Rain pouring down, neon lights reflecting off the streets, all with that dark, brooding vibe. It's eerie, but alive, if that makes sense. The city feels like it's its own character. Plus, the freedom to glide through the skyline or hop in the Batmobile just makes you feel like you own the place. Speaking of the Batmobile, I know people have mixed feelings about it, but come on, it's the freaking Batmobile. The controls can be a bit clunky at first, but once you get used to it, it's pretty fun blasting through the streets or shifting into battle mode. It adds a new dimension to the game, especially with those tank battles, even though they can get repetitive after a while. The story is where Arkham Knight really shines for me. Without spoiling too much, it's got everything. A psychological thriller, action-packed moments, and that emotional depth you wouldn't expect from a superhero game. Mad Max. So, I recently had the chance to spend some time with Mad Max, and let me tell you, it's an experience that truly stands out. The game captures the raw, gritty essence of the Mad Max universe so well that it feels like you're right in the heart of that post-apocalyptic wasteland. One of the first things that hit me was the attention to detail in the environment. The desolate landscapes and towering sandstorms are crafted with such precision that they almost feel alive. It's like every corner of the world has a story to tell, and exploring it becomes an adventure in itself. Upgrading and customizing your car, the magnum opus, is an absolute blast. There's something incredibly satisfying about tearing through enemies with a fully upgraded, heavily armed vehicle. And the thrill of high-speed chases and explosive battles really keeps you on the edge of your seat. The narrative is another strong point. Max's journey, filled with intense personal struggles and high-stakes encounters, is engaging from start to finish. It's not just about surviving, it's about finding purpose in a world that's gone mad. The characters you meet along the way, each with their own quirks and backstories, add depth to the story. What's more, the game does a great job of balancing action with exploration. There's always something to discover, whether it's hidden loot, side quests, or just interesting details in the environment. It encourages you to take your time and really soak in the world around you. The combat mechanics are solid. Evil West. If you're into games that let you feel like a total badass while fighting supernatural creatures, this one's for you. It's like Red Dead Redemption meets Van Helsing, but with way more punch. First off, the combat is brutal. You've got this mix of melee and ranged weapons that keeps things interesting the entire time. One moment, you're blasting vampires with a rifle, and the next, you're smashing them into pieces with an electrified gauntlet. The flow of switching between weapons and powers feels so natural. I loved how I never felt stuck using one method. The game just encourages you to get creative with the chaos. The story really surprised me too. I went in expecting just some fun, mindless action, but the narrative actually hooked me. You play as Jesse Rentier, this tough-as-nails cowboy working for a secret monster hunting institute, and the whole Wild West meets horror vibe is so well done. It's not Shakespeare, but it fits the tone perfectly. There's this balance of grit and humor in the dialogue that kept me engaged the whole way through. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not just a throwaway plot either. I also love that they didn't overcomplicate things with RPG elements. There are upgrades, sure, but they don't slow down the action. You can upgrade your weapons and skills as you go, but it's straightforward and doesn't bog you down with too many choices. It's more about fine-tuning how you want to fight, which really lets you focus on the combat and the carnage. Prey. This is one of those games that should have been a hit, but for whatever reason didn't catch on like it deserved to. And honestly, it's a real shame. Now, the controversy with Prey, it starts with the name. A lot of fans of the original Prey from 2006 were upset that Arkane's game had the same title, but was basically a completely different thing. There was no connection to the original Prey, no Tommy, no spirit abilities, none of that. So, right off the bat, some people were mad because they were expecting a sequel or continuation of the original, but Arkane went in a totally different direction. But if you put that aside and judge Prey for what it is, it's actually one of the best immersive sims out there. Arkane is known for crafting amazing worlds. The level design is just insane. You've got all these interconnected areas, and the way you can approach situations, whether you want to sneak, hack, fight, or even turn into a coffee cup. Yeah, that's a thing. Gives you so much freedom. And let's talk about the Typhon, the alien enemies in the game. The mimics are probably the most memorable. These little guys can disguise themselves as everyday objects, so every time you walk into a room, you're second-guessing everything. Is that chair just a chair, or is it about to jump at me? It adds this constant tension that makes the whole experience so gripping. Combat can be pretty tough, but it's rewarding. The glue gun is such a cool weapon. It's not just for fighting, but you can use it to create platforms and block hazards. Wolfenstein: The New Order. It's an absolute blast of a game, and I mean that literally. It's one of those titles that grabs you from the very start with its intense action, gripping story, and just straight-up brutal combat. It's a reimagining of a classic series, but it manages to feel both modern and respectful to its roots. The game is set in an alternate history where the Nazis won World War II, and it's your job as BJ Blazkowicz to bring them down. It's got this perfect balance of being both over the top and really emotionally engaging. The gameplay, though, that's where Wolfenstein really shines. It's this perfect mix of old-school shooter mechanics with some modern twists. You've got dual-wielding guns, fast movement, and the ability to choose between stealth or going full Rambo in most situations. What's awesome is that the game gives you a ton of freedom in how you approach combat. You can sneak around, taking enemies out silently, or just run in, guns blazing, and leave a trail of destruction. Personally, I love switching between the two, depending on the situation. The pacing of the game is fantastic as well. You're constantly moving between different environments and situations. 1 minute, you're in a Nazi prison, trying to escape, and the next, you're on a mission to infiltrate a moon base. Yes, a moon base. The game really goes all out with its setting, and it's not afraid to get a little weird with the sci-fi elements. There's a ton of variety in the level design, and you never really know what the game's gonna throw at you next. Far Cry 5. It's got all the things you'd expect from a Far Cry game. Open-world chaos, intense gunfights, and that sense of freedom to approach missions however you want. But this time, it's all set in the rural heartland of America, and that gives it a totally different vibe. What I loved about Far Cry 5 is how open-ended the gameplay is. You can literally do things your way. Want to storm a cult outpost, guns blazing? Go for it. Prefer to sneak around with a bow, taking out enemies silently? That works too. And then there's the ridiculous factor. This is a game where you can call in a bear named Cheeseburger or a dog, Boomer, to help you in battle. It's over the top in the best way. One of the big changes in Far Cry 5 is the way missions work. There's no set structure or main storyline that you're forced to follow. Instead, you earn resistance points by completing side missions, liberating outposts, and causing general chaos. As you build up resistance in each region, the story progresses naturally. It's a cool way to keep things feeling dynamic, and lets you choose how you want to play. There's also a ton of customization. You can upgrade your weapons, unlock perks, and even hire guns for hire to help you out in tough situations. There's a strategy to how you approach each mission, but it's always balanced by that freedom to just go nuts if you want to. One thing that stood out for me is how relevant the game feels. The whole idea of a cult taking over a rural town and pushing their beliefs on people. It's unsettling because it feels like something that could actually happen. Horizon Burning Shores. This expansion is everything you'd hope for and more, taking Aloy's journey into an entirely new region filled with challenges, surprises, and jaw-dropping moments. Set in a beautifully untamed area that feels wild and alive. It's all about exploring, adapting, and thriving in a world that's as dangerous as it is mesmerizing. The new landscape opens up fresh opportunities for discovery, with terrains that pushed you to think differently about how you approach traversal and combat. The highlight here is the freedom to experiment with the tools and abilities you've built up throughout the main game. The enemies in Burning Shores aren't just there to look intimidating. They're designed to test your skills in exciting ways. New machine types bring unique combat dynamics, keeping you on your toes and forcing you to adapt your strategies. The world design in Burning Shores is deeply immersive, with plenty of areas that invite exploration. Whether you're scaling cliffs, diving into the depths, or navigating open spaces, there's always something fascinating to find. Hidden treasures, mysterious locations, and cleverly placed challenges make every corner of this expansion worth exploring. The variety in the terrain ensures that no two moments feel alike, keeping the experience fresh and engaging from start to finish. The addition of new weapons and gear is another standout feature. These aren't just upgrades, they're game changers that open up creative ways to tackle enemies and solve environmental puzzles. Mortal Kombat 1. You know how some fighting games make you feel like you're mashing buttons hoping for the best? Not here. Mortal Kombat 1 manages to strike that perfect balance between approachable for newcomers and deep enough for the hardcore crowd. The accessibility options deserve a shout-out too. Fighting games can sometimes feel like an exclusive club, where only the most dedicated players thrive, but Mortal Kombat 1 welcomes everyone. Tutorials? Check. Training modes? Double check. And the inputs for moves are forgiving enough that even your friend who's never touched a controller before can still have fun, and maybe even land a killer fatality. The controls are responsive, the pacing is satisfying, and pulling off a special move feels ridiculously rewarding. And the fatalities? Without spoiling anything, of course. The creativity here is just off the charts. It's like the developers sat in a room and asked, how can we make players' jaws drop every single time? And then they delivered. It's gruesome, it's over the top, and somehow it's hilarious in that classic Mortal Kombat way. But what really keeps me coming back is the variety in gameplay. Sure, the main fights are the meat of the experience, but there's so much to explore beyond that. The game isn't just about smashing buttons in endless matches. It gives you reasons to keep playing, whether it's unlocking cool stuff or experimenting with different characters. Bottom line, jump in, throw some punches, and enjoy the chaos. Mortal Kombat 1 doesn't hold back. Atomic Heart. From the moment you jump into this weird, retro-futuristic Soviet world, you can tell you're in for something totally different. The whole vibe of the game is what grabbed me first. It's like if BioShock and Half-Life had this crazy alternate reality baby. The setting just pulls you in right away. Everything's all shiny and utopian on the surface, but you can feel this eerie tension creeping in. Like something's definitely not right here. The aesthetics? Absolutely stunning. It's got this whole 1950s retro sci-fi look, but it's set in this alternate version of the USSR where technology advanced in these weird, unsettling ways. Robots everywhere. And they're not your friendly, helpful kind either. As you're exploring, you've got this constant sense of, okay, when's the next crazy thing gonna try and kill me? It keeps you on edge, but in a fun way. Combat is intense, but super satisfying. You've got all these cool weapons, and then you mix in these crazy powers you can use with your left hand. It's like you're blasting enemies with a shotgun in one hand while using telekinesis or freezing them with your other hand. The mix of gunplay and abilities just feels so smooth and fluid. And let me tell you, when you finally master the combo system, you feel like a total badass. The enemies are really something too. You've got these creepy humanoid robots with weird, unsettling movements, and then there are the more bizarre, out there designs that look like something out of a fever dream. Yakuza 6. This game throws you straight into the heart of Kamurocho and the serene beauty of Onomichi, blending the chaotic energy of urban life with the peaceful charm of a small seaside town. It's the kind of game that's packed with personality, letting you dive deep into a world brimming with colorful characters, wild side activities, and plenty of fist-flying action. The combat in Yakuza 6 is a thing of beauty. It's fast, fluid, and packed with over-the-top moves that make every punch and kick feel satisfying. Whether you're brawling with a group of street punks or taking on a tougher challenge in a back alley, the game gives you all the tools to dominate the fight. You can pick up just about anything in the environment, a bike, a sign, even a street cone, and use it to deliver bone-crunching hits that are as brutal as they are hilarious. The seamless transition into combat makes every encounter feel organic, keeping the pace high and the action engaging. Outside of the fights, Yakuza 6 is a playground of activities. This game knows how to keep you entertained when you're not chasing down objectives. There's a fully functional karaoke minigame that lets you belt out tunes in rhythm-based fun. You can hit up a batting cage for a quick home run derby, stop by an arcade to play classic Sega games, or even spend time managing your own cat cafe. Yes, a cat cafe. It's all about variety, and this game delivers in spades. One of the standout features is the Clan Creator mode. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. A game that feels like a love letter to the roots of the series while bringing something fresh and bold to the table. Movement feels like a dance, fluid, fast-paced, and incredibly rewarding when you string it all together. Sargon isn't just your run-of-the-mill protagonist. He's equipped with an arsenal of moves that make traversal and combat a treat. Whether you're wall running, dodging traps, or leaping across massive gaps, there's a rhythm to it that feels so satisfying. And then there's the combat. Let me tell you, it's not just about hacking and slashing your way through enemies. Every encounter demands strategy. You'll have to master dodges, parries, and combos to succeed. Enemies aren't pushovers. They're smart, they're tough, and they'll make you think on your feet. But that's part of the fun, right? When you finally take down a tricky foe after figuring out their patterns, it's such a rush. One thing that stands out about The Lost Crown is how it balances exploration and combat. The world is layered with secrets and challenges that encourage you to look beyond the obvious. It's not just about moving from point A to point B. It's about figuring out how to get there, what's hidden along the way, and how to overcome obstacles that aren't always straightforward. The game constantly rewards curiosity, and every time you uncover something new, it feels like a win. Speaking of obstacles, the puzzles in this game are no joke. They're clever, varied, and so satisfying to solve. Next we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game is like every Star Wars fan's dream come to life. Seriously, if you've ever imagined wielding a lightsaber, dodging blaster shots, or facing off against terrifying Sith enemies, Fallen Order is the game for you. It just pulls you in and makes you feel like a Jedi in training, and it's just so much fun. This game takes you all over the Star Wars galaxy, from lush forests to crumbling ancient ruins, and everything in between. Each planet has its own feel, its own mysteries, and its own set of enemies and challenges. There's this amazing sense of adventure as you move from planet to planet, uncovering secrets, exploring caves, and finding new paths. And the level design is a blast. It's got that classic Metroidvania vibe, where you keep discovering new abilities that let you access areas you couldn't reach before. You're constantly rewarded for exploring and backtracking, which just makes the whole journey so satisfying. Swinging a lightsaber in Fallen Order feels right. There's a weight to it, and when you deflect a blaster bolt back at a stormtrooper, pure joy. The combat strikes this perfect balance between fun and challenging. It's not button mashing. You actually have to time your attacks, parries, and dodges to succeed, which makes every encounter feel intense and meaningful. Plus, as you go along, you get to customize your lightsaber. You can pick different colors, hilts, and other parts to make it feel like your weapon, which is just such a cool touch. Fallen Order has an incredible story. Spec Ops: The Line. It's one of those games that messes with your expectations in the best way. I remember going into it thinking, oh, just another military shooter, right? At first glance, it looks like your standard third-person cover shooter. You're leading a squad, you've got your guns, sandstorms everywhere because it's set in Dubai, and it all seems pretty straightforward, but as you dig deeper, that's where things start to unravel. The story pulls you in directions you don't expect, and it really makes you question your choices, like seriously question them. What I loved about Spec Ops: The Line is how it uses the setting and the characters to play with your mind. You start feeling like the hero, but after certain missions you're like, wait, am I doing the right thing here? The game gets into some heavy stuff about the horrors of war and the consequences of your actions, which is something most shooters don't really touch on. It's more than just, go here, shoot this. There's a layer of guilt and responsibility that weighs on you by the end. Plus, the gameplay is solid. I mean, the shooting mechanics are great, the cover system works well, and the environmental destruction with the sandstorms is a cool twist. But really, the gameplay is just a vehicle for the narrative, and that's what elevates this game from being just another shooter to something special. You don't see a lot of games that really make you reflect on the violence in that way. Honestly, if you're into games that challenge you emotionally and mentally, while still delivering fun, engaging action, Spec Ops is a must. Persona 5. Without spoiling anything, you play as a high school student with a secret double life. By day, you're navigating the trials and tribulations of school, classes, exams, and hanging out with your friends. But by night, you're a phantom thief, sneaking into mysterious realms to change hearts and fight evil. It's as cool as it sounds, trust me. The menus, the animations, even the transitions, everything feels like it was designed by someone with a passion for flair. Every little detail screams, we're going to make this look amazing, even if it's just a loading screen. And don't even get me started on the music. The jazzy soundtrack is the kind of thing you'll be humming for weeks after you play. And the gameplay. It's this perfect blend of turn-based combat and life simulation, and somehow it works beautifully. One moment you're strategizing in these gorgeous, surreal dungeons, pulling off stylish combos and unleashing your personas, which, by the way, are basically manifestations of your inner psyche. The next, you're deciding how to spend your free time. Do you study for your next exam, work a part-time job, or go out for ramen with your friends? The balance between these two sides of the game is just chef's kiss. What I love most, though, is how Persona 5 makes everything you do feel meaningful. Spending time with your friends, called confidants, isn't just fun, it also gives you bonuses in battle. Doing well in school or working a part-time job helps you build skills that open up even more opportunities. Even the smallest choices feel like they matter. Metal Gear Solid V: The Phantom Pain. It's one of those experiences that really makes you feel like you're in control of a tactical open-world espionage operation. From the moment you start as Big Boss, or Venom Snake, if you want to get technical, you know you're in for something special. The way the game blends stealth, action, and freedom of choice is just next level. Let's start with the open world. Unlike previous Metal Gear games, which were more linear, The Phantom Pain drops you into these massive living environments. You've got Afghanistan's rocky, mountainous terrain, and the jungles of Africa, each filled with enemy bases, patrols, and wild animals. The thing is, the world isn't just a backdrop. It reacts to how you play. You can approach missions any way you want, whether it's going in guns blazing or sneaking in without anyone ever knowing you were there. And the best part? If you get caught, the game doesn't punish you too harshly. You can adapt, think on your feet, and still pull off the mission. That freedom keeps the tension high and the experience fresh every time. The stealth mechanics, they're just so well done. You've got all these tools at your disposal. Decoys, tranquilizer guns, night vision goggles, and you can customize your loadout for every mission. One of my favorite things to do is use the cardboard box, classic Metal Gear, to sneak around or surprise enemies. It's so ridiculous, but somehow always works. And Mother Base is such a cool feature, you're constantly building it up. Resident Evil 7. One of the coolest things about the game is how immersive it feels. They went with a first-person perspective, which, let me tell you, makes everything so much scarier. It's like you're in the middle of a horror movie, and you're the main character. And they nailed that gritty, creepy vibe. The sound design is just incredible, with creaky floors, distant footsteps, and other little sounds that keep you on edge. It really pulls you into the experience. You're exploring this creepy, run-down mansion, and right away, you can feel the game practically daring you to go deeper. And trust me, every corner you turn is filled with suspense. It's got that classic, what's around the next corner feel, where you're bracing yourself for something terrifying. I found myself holding my breath more than a few times. Combat-wise, it's got that classic Resident Evil survival feel. You're not overloaded with ammo, so every bullet counts, and you have to make careful decisions. It's a nice balance of horror and action, where you're fighting to survive, but still constantly feeling vulnerable. And the enemies? Let's just say they're some of the creepiest in the series. The puzzles are a fun throwback, too. They're clever, without being overwhelming, and they add that classic Resident Evil touch to the game. You're searching for keys, unlocking doors, and solving riddles, which all just adds to the sense of discovery and dread. And honestly, the Baker family. They are some of the most memorable characters in horror gaming. Period. Each encounter with them is just nerve-wracking, and you never know what they'll do next. Forza Motorsport. This isn't a game that casually asks you to win. It challenges you to learn every curve, every braking point, and every opportunity to overtake with precision. At its core, Forza Motorsport is a celebration of cars, competition, and the sheer joy of pushing limits. This is where car enthusiasts and racing fans unite, exploring an intricate world where every vehicle feels like it has its own story to tell. It's not just a race to the finish line. It's about understanding your car, the track, and the craft. There's a kind of magic in how the game translates the language of motorsport into an experience that feels approachable yet endlessly deep. The driving physics are a standout feature here. Forza Motorsport strikes a perfect balance between realism and accessibility, creating a playground where beginners can learn and veterans can refine their skills. Each car handles differently, and you can feel the difference when you switch from a nimble hatchback to a roaring supercar. Car customization is where the game really lets you unleash your creativity. This isn't just about slapping on a new coat of paint or adding a flashy decal. It's a deeply satisfying process where you can tweak everything from the aerodynamics to the engine setup. Forza Motorsport doesn't treat cars like mere tools. They're your partners on the track, and you have full control over how they evolve. The variety of tracks is another area where this game shines. Dead Space Remake, a game that completely revitalized a classic survival horror experience and honestly deserved a shot at Game of the Year. The original Dead Space was already a masterpiece, but the remake took it to another level, with modern graphics, tighter gameplay, and some amazing quality-of-life improvements. It was like stepping back into a nightmare, but with 4K visuals and even more horrifying details. First off, the atmosphere in the Dead Space remake was next level. The USG Ishimura felt more alive and dead than ever. Every creak, every shadow, and every flickering light just added to that sense of dread. The developers did an incredible job preserving what made the original so terrifying, while also cranking up the immersion. They rebuilt the whole game from the ground up, and it showed in how polished the environments were. The lighting alone made certain sections feel way scarier than before, like you're always one step away from something terrible. But here's the thing. While the Dead Space remake was stunning and faithful to its source material, some people argued that it didn't do enough to push the genre forward, which is probably why it didn't take home the Game of the Year trophy. It was a fantastic remake, but it stayed close to the original's formula, which, for some, felt more like a tribute than a bold new experience. But here's the bottom line. The Dead Space remake did exactly what it set out to do, remind us why this franchise is one of the best in survival horror. The fact that it didn't win Game of the Year doesn't take away from the fact that it was one of the most polished and terrifying games of 2023. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. It got a bit of a rough start, but honestly, deserved way more love than it got. Now, when it dropped back in 2017, the game had a lot of expectations riding on it because Shadow of Mordor was such a hit. And Shadow of War did a lot of things right, but there's no denying it also stirred up some serious controversy, which didn't help its case at launch. First, let's get the big elephant in the room out of the way. The microtransactions. Yep, that's where a lot of the initial hate came from. It was a single-player game, but Warner Bros. Thought, hey, let's toss in loot boxes and microtransactions. Gamers were not having it. Understandably, no one wants to feel like they're being nickeled and dimed in a story-driven experience. What's wild, though, is that they eventually removed the microtransactions completely. But by then, the damage had already been done. A lot of people had already written it off. And that's a real shame because, beyond all the controversy, Shadow of War had so much going for it. First off, that Nemesis system, still genius. I mean, creating rivalries with orcs who remember you, plot against you, or come back from the dead for revenge. It's such a unique mechanic that really makes every playthrough different. The world felt alive, chaotic, and personal, in a way most open-world games dream of achieving. Then, there's the scale of the game. They took what worked in Shadow of Mordor and just made it bigger. More fortresses to conquer, more regions to explore, and even more dynamic relationships with your followers and enemies. Street Fighter VI. First off, this game doesn't just toss you into the action and say, good luck. It genuinely wants you to succeed. There's an entire suite of tools designed to help you get better at the game, whether you're a complete newbie or a seasoned pro. From the controls to the tutorials, everything feels approachable without ever dumbing it down. It's a game that respects your time and your willingness to learn. And honestly, that's pretty refreshing in a genre that can sometimes feel intimidating. It's got that classic Street Fighter DNA, but with just enough new twists to make it feel fresh and exciting. Every punch, kick, and fireball feels like it packs a serious punch. The roster of fighters is stacked, with returning legends and new faces that each bring something unique to the table. It's not just about picking your favorite character. It's about finding one that feels like an extension of your playstyle. Whether you like to get up close and personal or keep your distance with flashy moves, there's someone here for you. Oh, and the combos? They're ridiculously satisfying to pull off. There's nothing quite like stringing together a sequence of moves, landing a perfect counter, and then watching the results play out in slow motion. It's the kind of thing that makes you feel like a fighting game genius, even if you're just mashing buttons half the time. Whether you're honing your skills, customizing your character, or jumping online for some friendly or not so friendly competition, there's always something to do. Watch Dogs Legion. This game really took the whole open-world hacking thing to another level. The first thing that hit me was the setting, London. And not just any version of London, but this near-future dystopian London where everything is under heavy surveillance, and the government is basically a dictatorship. The way they captured the city, though, it's spot on. From Big Ben to Camden Market, every corner of London feels alive, and it's just cool to explore this iconic city in a way you've never seen before. But the real hook for Legion? It's got to be that play as anyone system. Like, literally anyone you see walking down the street, you can recruit into your squad. I remember at first I thought, okay, but surely this is just a gimmick, right? Nope. You actually build a team of characters, and each one has their own backstory, abilities, and quirks. I had this old lady on my team, seriously, a grandma, and she was walking around, slow as anything, but she had some tech skills that were unbeatable. There's just something hilarious about seeing her take down an enemy in the most casual way possible. And that's what's fun about it. Everyone you recruit adds something different to your team, and it makes you think about how you approach missions. You could be rolling with a construction worker who can call in a cargo drone to fly over buildings, or a spy with a silenced pistol and a fancy sports car. And of course, Legion is all about that hacking life. You're controlling drones, hijacking cars, hacking cameras, all with a few button presses. Helldivers 2. Now, this game is a follow-up to the original Helldivers, which had a strong cult following. It's all about cooperative, top-down, tactical shooting, but with a pretty unique twist. It's brutally difficult. However, Helldivers 2 has gotten some hate for being too punishing, or for having gameplay mechanics that can feel overwhelming, especially for new players. One of the biggest complaints is how unforgiving it can be. Friendly fire is always on, which means you can accidentally or not so accidentally kill your teammates during missions. And believe me, this happens a lot. It's a game that forces you to be super careful, and not everyone is down for that level of intensity. The steep learning curve and lack of hand-holding also rubbed some players the wrong way, especially those who were expecting something more casual. Another thing that got some pushback was the game's structure. Missions can feel repetitive after a while, and if you're playing solo, the game is an entirely different experience, and not always in a good way. It's built around cooperative play, so going in alone can make it feel more frustrating than fun. But here's the thing. If you're into tactical shooters and have a squad to play with, Helldivers 2 is an absolute blast. The chaos that comes from trying to coordinate with your teammates while dodging enemy fire and calling in reinforcements makes for some seriously intense moments. The variety of weapons, gear, and strategies you can use makes each mission feel dynamic, and the constant threat of messing up keeps the tension high. Warhammer Space Marine 2. Honestly, I had pretty high expectations going in, especially since I loved the first game, but this one really blew me away. I just finished it, and I'm still buzzing with adrenaline. If you're into anything Warhammer or just a fan of solid, brutal action games, this one hits all the right notes. Right from the start, I was hooked. You jump back into the boots of Captain Titus, and let me tell you, they've cranked everything up. Titus feels like an absolute force of nature, and the game really nails that power fantasy of being a space marine. Every time I smashed into a group of Tyranids, it felt like I was carving through them like a god of war. And these Tyranids are terrifying. The way they swarm you, it's a mix of pure chaos and strategic survival. Speaking of strategy, the game's combat is deeper than it looks at first. Sure, you can charge in swinging that chainsword and ripping through enemies, but you've got to think a bit too. You can't just button mash your way to victory, especially with those massive bosses. They've got these intricate patterns, so it feels like a dance between brute force and tactical moves. When I finally took down one of the bigger enemies after like 15 minutes of dodging and countering, it was such a satisfying moment. I felt like I earned that victory. And the story is more than just a mindless shooter, that's for sure. There are moments where the weight of war, the cost of being a space marine, really hit. Titus's arc feels more fleshed out this time around. He's not just a badass in power armor. Ghost of Tsushima. From the moment you start playing, it just feels like you're stepping into this beautifully crafted world. The first thing that really grabbed me was the landscape. The island of Tsushima is stunning, with these rolling hills, forests, and temples scattered all around. And the way the wind guides you instead of using a mini-map, that was such a cool touch. It makes you feel like you're part of the world, not just playing a game. The combat is another thing that I couldn't stop thinking about. It's so fluid and satisfying. At first, I was a bit nervous because samurai combat can be tricky, but the way it's designed here feels so intuitive. You switch between stances depending on who you're fighting, and it just flows so well. Every sword fight feels like it has weight. There were times when I would stop and challenge a group of enemies to a standoff, just because it felt so epic. You literally feel like a samurai. Speaking of feeling like a samurai, the story really pulls you in. It's all about Jin Sakai and his struggle between upholding the samurai code and doing what needs to be done to save his people. It gets you thinking, you know? Like, what would you do in his shoes? Would you stick to the rules or adapt to survive? The game really leans into that inner conflict, and I found myself getting attached to Jin and the other characters, especially his uncle. The emotional moments hit hard, and let's not forget the duels. Oh man, the duels. Some of the most intense moments in the game for sure. You face off against these really skilled enemies. The Surge. I went into it thinking, okay, another sci-fi post-apocalyptic action RPG. But it's so much more than that. The whole concept of this broken-down, futuristic factory setting is just awesome. It's gritty, industrial, and feels like everything is falling apart, which really adds to that sense of desperation as you're trying to survive. And honestly, the world building is better than I expected. You slowly uncover bits of the story as you explore, and the more you dig, the more you realize just how messed up everything is. Now, I've got to talk about the combat because that's really the star of the show here. It's tough, methodical, and every fight feels like it could be your last. But here's the twist that sets it apart. The whole targeting limbs mechanic. It's genius. You don't just hack and slash randomly. You're strategically aiming for enemy body parts. Want that awesome new arm gear? You better take it from your enemy. It makes every encounter feel like a high-stakes chess match, where you're constantly weighing the risk of going for the kill or trying to grab new loot. And the exosuit? Such a cool feature. It feels like you're wearing this clunky, powerful piece of machinery, and as you upgrade it, you can feel yourself getting stronger. But at the same time, the enemies ramp up in difficulty, so you're never too comfortable. It keeps you on your toes, for sure. Plus, the suit customization adds a ton of variety to the gameplay. So, yeah, the Surge is a gem. Rise of the Tomb Raider. This game really took me by surprise in the best way possible. I mean, I knew going in it was going to be a solid game, but it actually exceeded my expectations on so many levels. First off, the environments are stunning. Every single location feels meticulously crafted, from the frozen Siberian mountains to the hidden tombs. You really feel like you're on this epic adventure with Lara. I found myself just stopping to take in the views at times, which isn't something I do often in action games. And speaking of action, the combat and stealth mechanics are incredibly satisfying. You get this perfect blend of intense firefights, sneaky takedowns, and crafting that just keeps you engaged throughout. There's this real sense of progression, too. By the end of the game, I felt like Lara had grown so much, not just as a character, but in terms of abilities. You can craft your own explosives, improve your gear, and upgrade your skills, so it feels like you're always evolving. The game nails that feeling of being alone in the wilderness. There were plenty of moments where I felt like Lara was up against impossible odds, but her resilience kept pushing her forward. There's something really inspiring about that. It's like you're constantly in survival mode, scavenging for resources, battling enemies, and fighting the elements. I have to say, the tombs themselves are a standout. They're optional, but trust me, they're worth exploring. Some of the puzzles had me scratching my head for a while, but that moment of solving them is so satisfying. Monster Hunter World, a game that's all about epic hunts, incredible creatures, and just a whole lot of fun. If you've ever wanted to feel like the ultimate hunter, taking down massive, fantastical beasts with a giant sword, or hammer, or bow, or even a bagpipe, then this game is calling your name. And trust me, once you start, it's hard to put down. The combat in Monster Hunter World is intense, but in the best way possible. You've got so many weapons to choose from, each with its own feel and playstyle. There's something for everyone. Whether you want to get up close and personal with a giant sword, keep your distance with a bow, or support your friends with a hunting horn, it's all there. Each weapon has its own learning curve, but mastering one feels incredibly rewarding. And the game doesn't rush you. You can spend hours just getting comfortable with different weapons and finding out which one really clicks for you. The best part about hunting, though, is that it's not just a straightforward swing till it drops kind of deal. You've got to pay attention to the monster's movements, study its behavior, and figure out when it's vulnerable. Every hunt is like a puzzle, and it's up to you to figure out how to take down each monster. It's challenging, but never frustrating, and every victory feels earned. You'll find yourself thinking, okay, maybe just one more hunt, over and over again. The monsters themselves are really the stars here. Each one is so unique, with its own behaviors, attack patterns, and quirks. The Evil Within, a game that brought some real old-school survival horror vibes, but didn't quite get the love it deserved. Honestly, this game flew under the radar for a lot of people, which is crazy because it was directed by Shinji Mikami, the guy behind Resident Evil 4. You'd think that would have guaranteed a Game of the Year contender, right? What made The Evil Within stand out was how it balanced psychological horror with intense, sometimes brutal action. The game wasn't just about jump scares, though it had plenty of those. It was about atmosphere, tension, and always keeping the player on edge. You never felt safe, which is what survival horror should be all about. And the world? Creepy, unsettling, filled with twisted, nightmarish creatures. It really felt like a descent into madness. But let's be real. The Evil Within wasn't for everyone, and that's probably why it didn't snag a Game of the Year. The difficulty was punishing at times, with limited ammo, tough enemies, and the kind of survival mechanics that could frustrate players who weren't prepared for that hardcore experience. It had this real old-school design that some players loved, but others found off-putting. People who were used to more action-focused horror games weren't always vibing with the slower, more methodical pace. The game was also pretty divisive when it came to its story. Some people thought the plot was all over the place, a little too cryptic and hard to follow, but here's the thing. If you were a fan of old-school survival horror, The Evil Within was a gem. Bloodborne. It absolutely deserved to win Game of the Year in 2015, but didn't quite get the crown. I mean, this game was From Software at its peak, delivering an intense gothic nightmare of a world that fans still rave about to this day. It's wild to think that something this groundbreaking didn't take home the big award. First off, the atmosphere in Bloodborne? Unreal. Yharnam was this dark, twisted, Victorian city filled with werewolves, cosmic horrors, and nightmare creatures that just kept you on edge the entire time. The design of the world was so hauntingly beautiful, with that classic From Software touch, where every alley and hidden path had a story to tell. The game didn't hold your hand either, which was part of its charm. You had to figure everything out on your own, from the lore to the mechanics. And let's talk about that combat system. Bloodborne took the typical slow, methodical Souls formula, and made it fast and aggressive. You couldn't just hang back and wait. The game literally rewarded you for going on the offense with that regain system. If you got hit, you had a window to hit back and regain your health, which encouraged players to stay in the fight instead of running away. It was like Dark Souls on adrenaline. But here's the thing. Bloodborne came out the same year as The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and that's where things get tricky. The Witcher 3 swept most of the awards that year, and while it was undoubtedly a great game, a lot of people felt like Bloodborne was overshadowed because of that. But for those who played it, Bloodborne was a masterpiece. Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN, a game that takes the sprawling open-world design and layered combat mechanics the series is known for, and builds on them with a darker, more intense focus on tactical gameplay and exploration. It doesn't just expand on what worked before, but introduces a whole new depth to how you approach challenges and the way you navigate its world. At its core, this game is all about mastering the art of combat while uncovering the secrets of a sprawling, interconnected world. It's packed with dangers around every corner, but each area feels like it has its own personality. The environments are rich with detail and designed in a way that encourages you to explore every nook and cranny. From hidden pathways to unexpected encounters, there's always something to keep you on your toes. The combat system is as layered as ever. The focus on precision and timing remains central, but there's a stronger emphasis on adapting to unique encounters. You're not just swinging a sword or casting a spell, you're learning the strengths and weaknesses of your enemies, and figuring out how to use your arsenal effectively. Whether it's experimenting with new weapons or mastering a fresh ability, the game gives you plenty of options to keep things interesting. The addition of new mechanics brings another layer of depth to gameplay. There's a heightened focus on nighttime exploration, which changes the dynamic of how you approach the world. Some areas feel more dangerous after the sun sets. Fallout 76. I know this game got quite a bit of heat when it first came out, but after all the updates and expansions, it's a totally different experience now. Trust me. Bethesda really put in the work here, and it shows. First off, if you're into Fallout for the whole post-apocalyptic vibe, Fallout 76 still nails that perfectly. You're out there exploring the ruins of West Virginia, which is way more beautiful than I expected in an end-of-the-world kind of way. The landscapes are huge and varied, with misty forests, eerie bogs, and even mountainous areas where you'll get a stunning view of the wasteland. Honestly, the setting is a character in itself. And yes, it's multiplayer, meaning you'll run into other players as you explore. But don't worry, it's not like some chaotic battle royale or anything. You can still choose to play mostly on your own, focus on your story quests, or even just wander around, soaking in the atmosphere. But having others around adds this cool element of unpredictability, like maybe you're all just hanging out around a campfire, or someone pops up to trade supplies. It makes the world feel more alive, which is pretty rare in the Fallout series. Speaking of camps, let's talk camp building, which might be one of my favorite parts of the game. You can set up your own little homestead anywhere in the wilderness, and then customize it however you want. I mean, some people have made full-on mansions out there, and I'm over here just trying to get my campfire going. It's like a mix of Fallout survival with Sims creativity. Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's not your typical medieval RPG, and that's exactly what makes it so special. When I first started, I was blown away by how grounded it feels. You're not some chosen one or knight in shining armor. You're just Henry, a blacksmith's son. And that's one of the best things about it. The game doesn't hold your hand, and it really throws you into this unforgiving world of Bohemia. It's gritty, realistic, and refreshingly different from other RPGs that lean into fantasy. The realism in this game is next level. There's no magic or dragons here. Everything is based on actual historical events, and the attention to detail is crazy. The armor, the weapons, the way people live. It's also authentic, and that extends to the gameplay too. The combat system, for example, is super unique. It's not just about button mashing your way through fights. It's tactical, slow-paced, and takes a lot of practice to get right. Sword fighting in particular feels so different from any other game. It's all about timing, positioning, and strategy. You really need to pay attention to how your opponent moves. What I love about Kingdom Come Deliverance is how immersive the world is. The landscape is stunning, and the towns and villages feel alive. You walk through the streets, and people are going about their daily routines. There's a sense that life continues, whether you're there or not. The historical accuracy is something else too. The game takes place during an actual period in history. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It takes everything Call of Duty is known for, fast-paced combat, intense firefights, and cranks it up to the max. This game isn't just about quick reflexes. It's about living out those high-stakes, cinematic moments that you'd normally only see in movies. Modern Warfare 2 is probably one of the most memorable campaigns in the whole Call of Duty series. What I love about the campaign is how well it balances action with quieter, suspenseful moments. It's not just non-stop explosions and chaos, though there's plenty of that. There are also these more thoughtful moments, where you have to rely on stealth, tactics, or just careful observation. It's a cool change of pace, and it makes those big, explosive moments hit even harder. Plus, the story is packed with memorable characters. You'll see some familiar faces like Soap and Captain Price, and the chemistry between them is fantastic. It's like being in an action movie, where every character has their own vibe, and you end up feeling genuinely invested in what happens to them. This campaign is really clever about mixing things up, so you're never doing the same thing twice. There's a little bit of everything. Stealth missions, full-blown shootouts, and even some sequences that almost feel like puzzles, where you have to think about how to use the environment to your advantage. Every mission has its own personality, and each one is designed to keep you engaged and constantly adapting to new situations. It's the kind of game where you never know what's coming next. Uncharted 4. This is one of those games that grabs you from the very first moment. If you've played any of the previous Uncharted games, you know what to expect. Action, adventure, treasure hunts, and a lot of intense moments. But Uncharted 4 just hits differently. It feels like a perfect blend of everything we loved about the series, but with a more mature, reflective tone. Nathan Drake is back, and this time he's facing his greatest challenge yet. What's really cool is that the game dives deeper into his personal life, showing a side of Nathan we don't usually see. He's older, more settled, and you can tell he's trying to move on from his treasure hunting days. But of course, things don't stay quiet for long. The game does a great job of building up that tension between wanting to leave the past behind and being pulled back in. It's something that feels relatable, even if we're not all globe-trotting adventurers. The visuals in this game are absolutely stunning. Whether you're scaling cliffs in Scotland or exploring ancient ruins in Madagascar, everything looks so incredibly detailed. Sometimes, I would just stop for a moment to take in the scenery, which is something I don't usually do in action games. The environments feel alive, and they draw you into the story in a way that makes it feel like you're watching a movie, but also in control of the action. Speaking of the action, Uncharted 4 nails the gameplay. The combat, the platforming, and even the puzzle solving all feel smooth and satisfying. Assassin's Creed Unity. I know it got some heat when it first came out, but these days it's actually kind of a hidden gem. Paris during the French Revolution is just incredible. The city feels so alive with all the chaos of that time period. People rioting in the streets, vendors yelling, revolutionaries everywhere. You really feel like you're in the middle of it all. What I love most about Unity is the detail in the city. The way they've recreated Notre Dame and all the landmarks is just breathtaking. I mean, it's Paris. Who wouldn't want to explore every nook and cranny? Arno, the main character, gives off that classic Assassin's Creed vibe, but he's a bit more relatable. He's got this personal revenge story going on, which feels pretty typical for AC, but with the revolution happening around him, it adds a lot more tension. And the whole romance thing with Elise, I thought it was a nice touch, gave the story more depth. And let's talk parkour. The parkour in Unity is easily the best in the series. It just feels so smooth. Running through the narrow streets, climbing up buildings, it's like you can feel every jump and movement. Escaping guards or just free running across rooftops never gets old. The customization is a major highlight too. You can kit Arno out with different outfits, weapons, and abilities. Whether you want to go full stealth or just dive into combat, it's totally up to you. The freedom to shape how you play is awesome. Oh, and the co-op missions. I had so much fun with those. Running heists with friends, trying to coordinate attacks. It's pure chaos in the best way. Skyrim. Where do you even start with a game like Skyrim? This game is just huge. It's one of those games that just keeps pulling you in, no matter how many times you've played it before. You boot it up thinking, I'll just play for an hour. And next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and you're sneaking around in the Thieves Guild or fighting a dragon on top of a mountain. First off, the world. It's absolutely massive and it feels alive, from the snowy peaks of the Throat of the World to the rolling plains of Whiterun. Every part of Skyrim feels like it has its own story to tell, and the fact that you can go anywhere, do anything, it's such a freeing experience. Like, if you see a mountain in the distance, you can actually go there, and you never know what's going to happen along the way. Maybe you run into a giant, or you stumble upon some hidden cave with its own little quest line. It's just endless discovery. The combat, well, it's classic Skyrim. It's not about being super fancy or fast-paced, but it's about choice. You want to swing a giant axe? Go for it. Prefer sneaking around with a bow or dual-wielding daggers? Totally doable. Or maybe you want to go full wizard, summoning flames and raising the dead. Whatever your style, the game lets you play exactly how you want. And speaking of choice, the quests are insane. Sure, there's the main story about you being the Dragonborn with the whole saving the world thing. But honestly, the side quests are where it's at. You can get caught up joining the Dark Brotherhood and becoming an assassin, or leading the companions and becoming a werewolf. SIFU. What's crazy about SIFU is how brutal it can be. I mean, you're this martial artist out for revenge, and the combat system is so fluid, but also super challenging. It's not the kind of game where you can just mash buttons, but the real twist? The aging mechanic. Every time you die, your character ages, and it changes how you play. As you get older, you hit harder, but lose health. It's such a clever way to keep the tension high. You're constantly trying to balance staying alive while still taking risks. There's this internal struggle like, do I push through this fight now, or should I retreat and try again later? The more you age, the fewer chances you have to finish your mission, which makes every death feel meaningful. The level design is awesome too. You're moving through these beautifully crafted environments, from neon-lit nightclubs to serene temples. Each one feels like a love letter to classic kung fu movies. The game's art style is sleek and minimal, but the environments are so detailed, and the atmosphere is on point. You really feel like you're living out this martial arts epic. What I also loved is how SIFU doesn't hold your hand. The difficulty can be punishing, but in a way that makes you want to get better. It's all about learning from your mistakes and coming back stronger. Each time you die, you're learning the enemy's patterns, figuring out new strategies. It's got that Dark Souls vibe where every failure is a lesson. If you love a good challenge and want to experience some of the best hand-to-hand combat in gaming, SIFU is a must-play. Dark Souls 3. This game is like a test of your patience, skill, and determination, but in the most rewarding way. It's tough, no doubt about it, but that's what makes it so satisfying. If you're into games that push you, Dark Souls 3 is an experience you won't forget. First off, the world. The atmosphere in this game is just something else. Every area feels heavy with history. Like the ruins and castles you walk through have seen centuries of battles and chaos. There's this haunting beauty to it, you know? You're walking through these desolate, crumbling places, but at the same time, they're gorgeous. It really pulls you in, like you just want to explore every corner, even if it means getting your ass kicked. And speaking of getting your ass kicked, the combat. Man, it's brutal. But once you get the hang of it, it's like a dance. You can't just go in swinging like in other games. Timing, dodging, and learning your enemy's moves are key. Every fight, whether it's a basic enemy or one of those insane bosses, feels like a challenge that you're either going to conquer or get humbled by. One thing I love about Dark Souls 3 is how it respects you as a player. It doesn't hold your hand or give you a bunch of tutorials. You're just thrown into this dark, dangerous world and expected to figure it out. At first, it's super intimidating, but you start picking up on little things. The lore, how the world is connected, the strategies you need to survive. It's almost like you're part of a secret club where you learn by trial and error, and the payoff is huge. Diablo 4. It's all about the thrill of combat and the promise of loot. Whether you're summoning dark magic, charging into battle as a tanky powerhouse, or raining arrows from a distance, every choice feels powerful and satisfying. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a game where you hack through enemies mindlessly. Combat in Diablo 4 feels strategic. It's about reading the battlefield, knowing when to go all in and when to pull back, and chaining together abilities in ways that make you feel unstoppable. Oh, and the enemies? They don't go easy on you. They're relentless, varied, and sometimes downright terrifying, forcing you to stay sharp and constantly adapt. Now, let's talk about the loot, because honestly, what's Diablo without loot, right? It's everywhere, and every piece you pick up feels like a mini jackpot. It's not just about shiny gear. It's about finding the perfect combination that makes your build truly click. Maybe it's a weapon that boosts your crits, or a piece of armor that lets you shrug off hits like a pro. The excitement of checking your inventory after every fight never gets old. Exploration in Diablo 4 is another highlight. The world is massive, and it feels alive in a way that keeps you curious. You're not just moving from one dungeon to the next. You're uncovering secrets, stumbling upon events, and discovering challenges that are as rewarding as they are unpredictable. It's a world that begs you to get lost in it, and there's always something waiting to be found. Titanfall 2. If you haven't jumped into this game yet, you're in for a treat because it's one of those rare shooters that nails everything from movement to story. You're not just running and gunning here. Titanfall 2 turns you into a parkour expert with wall running, double jumping, and slides that let you weave through the battlefield like a pro. The controls are smooth, and once you get the hang of it, it's hard to go back to other games. The map designs are built around this movement too, encouraging you to think creatively about how to get from point A to point B. There's something so satisfying about stringing together a perfect series of moves to outmaneuver enemies, and every match feels like you're pulling off action movie stunts. And then there are the Titans. If you ever wanted to pilot a giant mech, Titanfall 2 makes that dream come true. The game balances your time between playing as a pilot, the fast, agile soldier, and then calling down your Titan, which adds this completely new layer to the gameplay. Titans are powerful, heavy-hitting, and give you this awesome sense of being a walking tank. But it's not just a button mash fest. Every Titan has unique abilities and weapons, so there's actually a good bit of strategy involved. One thing that really stands out in Titanfall 2 is the campaign. Now, I know campaigns in first-person shooters can sometimes feel like a warm-up for multiplayer, but here it's a full experience on its own. It's well-paced, exciting, and even throws in some surprises that keep things fresh. Outlast 2. The game is a wild, terrifying ride from start to finish. It takes the creepy factor and dials it up so high you're constantly on edge. If you thought the first Outlast was scary, this one's here to remind you it can always get worse. First off, Outlast 2 does something amazing with its setting. You're dropped into this isolated backwoods area that feels like it's completely detached from the rest of the world. The story has you playing as Blake Langerman, a cameraman looking for answers about a mysterious murder, and, of course, you're not exactly welcomed with open arms. One thing I really love about Outlast 2 is how it forces you to use your camera to survive. You're relying on it for night vision in pitch black areas. But here's the kicker. The battery drains so fast. There's this constant panic about running out of juice. And when you hear something moving in the darkness, that dread just skyrockets. It's a beautiful kind of torture. Honestly, the camera itself feels like a character because you're always thinking about it, babying it, just hoping the battery lasts through the next nightmare. And when the camera dies in a dark place, pure terror. But it's not just about being scared. Outlast 2 does such a great job at making you feel helpless. There's no fighting back, no weapons, no hero moment where you suddenly become this badass. Nope, it's all about running, hiding, and surviving. You have to pick your hiding spots carefully, crouch through cornfields, dive under beds, and hope nobody finds you. Every noise feels like a threat. We have Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. This game is a pure adrenaline rush on wheels. A kart racing masterpiece that doesn't just pay homage to the classic, but revs it up for a new generation. It's all about fast-paced, chaotic racing with vibrant tracks, hilarious characters, and some truly wild power-ups that will have you laughing and yelling at the screen in equal measure. At its core, the game is an exhilarating ride through cleverly designed tracks filled with twists, jumps, shortcuts, and plenty of hazards to keep you on your toes. It's not just about racing, it's about mastering the art of drifting, boosting, and timing your power-ups perfectly to leave your rivals in the dust, or knock them off the track entirely. The controls are tight, intuitive, and wonderfully responsive, making every race feel like a test of skill rather than luck. The variety of characters is another big highlight. Every racer brings their own quirky personality to the game, with some fan favorites from the original making a comeback and a few fun surprises added to the roster. Customization takes things up a notch, letting you tweak your karts and characters with a ton of unlockable skins, decals, and wheels. It's a kart racing playground that lets you put your personal stamp on every race. Multiplayer is where the game really shines. Whether you're battling it out online or settling grudges in split-screen mode, the chaos ramps up tenfold when you're playing against friends or strangers. Sniper Elite 4. It's set in World War II Italy, and let me tell you, it's way more than just a standard shooter. This game actually has you thinking, planning, and sneaking around, which makes it so much more engaging than just running and gunning. It's a nice change from the darker, grittier locations. There's this real sense of place, like you're actually on these missions behind enemy lines. You can even explore different routes and vantage points, so every mission feels open-ended. It's not a game that tells you, go here, do this. You have the freedom to get creative with your approach. Now, the big star of Sniper Elite 4 has to be the sniping itself. I mean, there's a reason Sniper is in the title. The sniping mechanics here are awesome. The game takes everything into account, distance, wind, even gravity, so every shot feels earned. And then there's that iconic X-ray cam. When you land a perfect shot, the camera follows the bullet in slow motion, and you get this X-ray view of it ripping through your target. It's kind of gruesome, but also so ridiculously satisfying. You know they nailed the shot mechanics when you can feel the weight of each shot. It's like a mini celebration every time you get it just right. But Sniper Elite 4 isn't just about staying a mile away from enemies and picking them off one by one. It's a full-on stealth experience. You have to be smart about where you go, how you hide, and how you move around. You can use the environment to mask your shots, like firing when a plane goes overhead or when a generator is making noise. It makes you feel like a real sniper. Stalker 2. So, you know how some games make you feel like you're surviving? Like, really surviving? That's Stalker 2 in a nutshell. The zone is the star of the show. It's haunting, it's dangerous, and it's unpredictable. What I love most is how it doesn't hold your hand. You're thrown into this place, and you just have to figure it out. It's like the game is saying, hey, good luck out there, buddy. And honestly, that's part of what makes it so satisfying. It's all about exploration, taking risks, and making decisions that can completely change your experience. If you've played the original Stalker games, you already know this isn't your typical shoot and loot affair. You're scavenging, crafting, and constantly managing your resources. And it feels real. Ammo isn't something you take for granted. Food and medical supplies, you'll cherish them like gold. And don't even get me started on the anomalies. These bizarre, deadly phenomena scattered across the zone add this layer of tension that keeps you on edge at all times. Every step you take feels like it matters. The NPCs you encounter in Stalker 2 are not just background noise. They feel like real people trying to survive, just like you. Some might help you, some might not. And figuring out who to trust is all part of the journey. If you love a good challenge, or if you just want to experience something truly unique, Stalker 2 needs to be on your radar. It's not just a sequel, it's a love letter to fans of the series and a bold step forward into a new generation of gaming. Mortal Kombat 11. The game that takes everything you know and love about this legendary franchise and cranks it up to 11, literally. The combat feels tight, responsive, and packed with layers of depth. Whether you're a button masher or someone who's memorized every single combo in the series, the game caters to all kinds of players. It's easy to jump in and start throwing punches, but mastering a character, that's where the real fun begins. And speaking of characters, the roster here is incredible. You've got old favorites, some unexpected returns, and a few surprises that will definitely keep you on your toes. Each fighter feels unique, with their own playstyle, moves, and of course, those iconic fatalities. Seriously, the fatalities in this game are a spectacle. They're gruesome, sure, but they're also so over the top that you can't help but laugh and cringe. It's like a masterclass in creative chaos. But it's not just about fighting, it's about strategy. Mortal Kombat 11 introduces new mechanics like the Fatal Blow and Crushing Blows, which add an extra layer of depth to each match. These aren't just flashy moves, they're game changers that can turn the tide of a fight if used wisely. It's all about timing and knowing when to strike, and it keeps every match feeling fresh and unpredictable. One thing that stands out is how accessible the game feels without sacrificing its complexity. If you're new to the series, the tutorials are super helpful, breaking down everything from basic moves to advanced strategies. Hogwarts Legacy. Honestly, this game is like a dream come true for anyone who's ever wanted to live out their Hogwarts fantasy. If you've grown up loving the world of Harry Potter, or just love the idea of being a wizard, this game really nails that feeling of stepping into the magical world. I mean, the second you get sorted into your house, it's like, yep, this is it. I'm at Hogwarts now. The school itself is gorgeous. They've done such an incredible job of capturing the magic and mystery of Hogwarts. You can literally spend hours just wandering around, getting lost in the hallways, finding hidden passages, and taking in all the little details. It's exactly how I imagined the castle would feel, like every corner has a secret or a bit of history waiting to be discovered. What's cool, too, is how the game lets you really craft your own story. You're not just following the Harry Potter timeline, you're in a completely new time period, which is honestly refreshing. You get to create your own character, make your own choices, and carve out your own adventure. And it's not just about being a goody-two-shoes student either. You can dive into some darker magic if you want, which is something I didn't expect but absolutely love. The combat is surprisingly deep too. At first, I thought it might be kind of simple, but there's actually a lot of strategy. You can mix and match different spells, use potions, and even summon creatures to help you out. And the way the spells are animated, like the wand flicks and the flashes of magic, it's so satisfying. You really feel like a proper witch or wizard. Far Cry 6. This is a game that knows exactly what it's doing, dropping you into a chaotic, sprawling open world filled with action, surprises, and an arsenal of wild tools to turn the odds in your favor. If you've ever wanted to feel like an unstoppable force while exploring an island paradise that's teetering on the edge of revolution, this game is your playground. The first thing that hits you about Far Cry 6 is how alive Yara feels. It's not just a setting. It's a vibrant, untamed world full of things waiting to explode, both literally and figuratively. Every road, village, jungle, and coastline feels like it's daring you to take charge. You'll find yourself tearing through enemy checkpoints, sneaking through lush forests, and stumbling into random, often hilarious encounters. There's a level of unpredictability to every corner of the island that keeps you constantly engaged. The game doesn't just give you a bunch of weapons and tell you to go wild. It gives you the tools to turn Yara into your personal chaos sandbox. Guns? Sure, but why stop there? There are makeshift weapons that look like they were cobbled together by a genius with a garage full of junk. Flamethrowers, disc launchers, explosive gadgets. Each one feels like it was designed to make you cackle, while causing maximum destruction. Vehicles are a big part of the fun too. From patched-up trucks to sleek motorcycles, you're never far from something that gets your adrenaline pumping. And it doesn't stop at traditional rides. Portal 2, one of the smartest, funniest, and most satisfying games out there. I mean, if you've ever wondered what it's like to solve complex puzzles while being gently, or not so gently, insulted by an AI, this is the game to play. From the moment you wake up, you know you're in for a unique experience. You play as Chell, this silent character stuck in a strange, abandoned science facility, and your main tool is this incredible portal gun. With it, you can create 2 connected portals on certain surfaces, letting you move through them in ways that feel almost magical. The whole concept of thinking with portals is amazing because it forces you to look at puzzles in a totally different way. What I love about Portal 2 is how it gradually ramps up the challenge. At first, it's simple stuff, figuring out where to place portals to get from point A to point B. But then they throw in all these wild mechanics like tractor beams, light bridges, and these crazy gels that speed you up or make you bounce. It's like each level is teaching you to think bigger, get more creative, and really push the limits of what's possible with just portals. The best part, though, has to be the co-op mode. Portal 2 lets you team up with a friend, and it's an absolute blast. You play as 2 adorable robots, and the puzzles are designed around the idea of working together. It's hilarious, challenging, and such a great way to test your teamwork. If you're into smart puzzles, and a game that constantly surprises you, Portal 2 is an absolute must-play. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. For some reason, it didn't get the love it deserved when it first came out. I mean, Lara Croft is a gaming icon, and the rebooted trilogy had been going strong, but when Shadow of the Tomb Raider dropped, it kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people. But honestly, this game is way better than its reputation suggests. Well, a lot of it came down to timing. Shadow of the Tomb Raider launched during a crowded time, with some big AAA games releasing around the same period, so it got overshadowed. Plus, some critics said it didn't do enough to innovate from the previous 2 games. People expected something groundbreaking after Rise of the Tomb Raider, but instead, they got a game that felt more like an evolution than a revolution. But here's the thing, what's so bad about sticking to a formula that works? The story, for example, is actually pretty deep. And let's not forget the world building. Shadow of the Tomb Raider has some of the most beautiful environments in the entire series. From dense jungles to hidden tombs, the game is visually stunning. The tombs themselves are more complex and rewarding than before, with some really creative puzzles that feel satisfying to solve. If you love the exploration and puzzle-solving aspects of Tomb Raider, this game nails it. Combat also feels more refined. Sure, it's not the focus as much as it was in the earlier reboot games, but that actually works in the game's favor. Shadow of the Tomb Raider encourages stealth and strategy over pure action, which fits the tone of the game. Max Payne 3. One of the things that hit me right away was how smooth the gameplay is. The gunplay is so satisfying. That bullet time mechanic is still here, and it's just as awesome as ever. Nothing beats diving through the air in slow motion, watching bullets fly by, while you take down a group of bad guys in a ridiculously cinematic way. I've got to say, Rockstar really nailed the action sequences. You feel like you're playing through an action movie, especially with how they blend the cutscenes into the gameplay seamlessly. It keeps you hooked the entire time. The game does a great job of blending the old and new. It's still got that noir vibe in the narrative and Max's inner monologues, but with a fresh twist. And while it's different from the first 2 games, it feels like a natural progression for Max as a character. He's still trying to run from his past, but no matter how far he goes or how many bullets he fires, he can't escape it. And honestly, he's pretty much at rock bottom when the game starts. You can really feel the weight of everything that's happened to him. I think one of the things that surprised me was how tough it can be. It's not an easy game. You really need to think about how you approach each situation, especially when you're low on ammo or painkillers. It makes every decision count, and every time you survive a brutal firefight, you feel like you earned it. So yeah, if you love intense action, a deep emotional story, and a character who's as flawed as they come, Max Payne 3 is absolutely worth your time. It's not just a game, it's an experience. Assassin's Creed Shadows, a game that dives deep into the art of stealth, strategy, and precision, offering an experience that emphasizes the silent and calculated approach of an assassin. It's all about moving through the world unseen, using the environment to your advantage, and mastering the tools of the trade to outwit and outmaneuver your targets. The focus on stealth mechanics is unmistakable. Every move matters. Whether you're sneaking through tight alleyways, blending into crowded streets, or scaling the heights to find the perfect vantage point, shadow and light play a central role in how you navigate the world, and positioning yourself just right can mean the difference between a flawless mission and a chaotic escape. Combat is there when you need it, but the game thrives on rewarding players who can avoid it entirely. It's about using the tools at your disposal in creative ways, from distractions to precise strikes. The range of weapons and gadgets feels intentionally crafted to suit a variety of playstyles, letting you approach each mission with your own unique touch. The open-world design is tailored for exploration and discovery. The environments feel alive, filled with opportunities to uncover hidden paths, secret entrances, and shortcuts. Every corner of the map invites curiosity, rewarding those who take the time to observe and strategize their approach. Territories feel like puzzles, with multiple ways to infiltrate, escape, or neutralize threats. Amnesia: The Bunker. We all know Amnesia is famous for its psychological horror, but this time, it's different, more intense, more claustrophobic. You're stuck in this grimy World War I bunker, and it's basically pitch black most of the time. Just that alone is enough to make you feel tense. I found myself constantly worrying about running out of light. I don't know about you, but for me, that's one of the worst feelings in a horror game, when you hear something but can't see it and your light is flickering. Yeah, no thanks. Speaking of the light, the whole mechanic with the hand crank flashlight is brilliant. It's one of those simple things that amps up the dread. You're cranking that thing as fast as you can, praying the batteries don't die while you hear something creeping up behind you. I legit felt my heart rate spike a few times. It adds this layer of vulnerability, but it also gives you just enough control to not feel totally helpless, just mostly helpless. The big difference in the bunker is how much freedom you have to explore. It's not as linear as the previous Amnesia games. You're given this bunker to explore at your own pace, which sounds nice, right? Except there's a monster roaming around that's hunting you the entire time. So yeah, you're free to roam, but good luck trying to stay calm while something's lurking in the shadows. The bunker itself is like this living, breathing nightmare. It's got that eerie, abandoned vibe, but it's also full of details that make you feel like you're uncovering something dark. The atmosphere is thick with dread, everything from the sound design to the way light barely reaches down those narrow corridors. Red Dead Redemption. Even after all these years, it's one of those games that still holds a special place in gaming history. It's more than just a cowboy game. It's a deep, emotional journey set in the fading days of the Wild West. You play as John Marston, a former outlaw, trying to leave his past behind. But of course, it's never that simple. The game's world, story, and characters are all top tier, pulling you into this incredible, open-world experience. The gunplay is smooth, with that satisfying dead-eye system that lets you slow down time and pick off targets with precision. Whether you're involved in epic shootouts or quick-draw duels, the action feels cinematic and intense. But it's not all about combat. You can spend just as much time exploring, engaging in side missions, or even playing mini-games like poker and horseshoes. The story is also a huge draw. John Marston's journey is one of redemption, family, and loyalty, and it's so well written. The characters you meet along the way, from outlaws to lawmen to settlers, are all memorable and feel like they're part of this living, breathing world. You get attached to these characters, and by the end, you're really invested in John's fate. The emotional weight of the story is one of the reasons why this game is still talked about as one of the best. The ending, without spoiling anything, is one of the most impactful and talked about conclusions in gaming. It's the kind of story that sticks with you long after you've finished it. Demon's Souls. The world of this game is jaw-dropping, especially in the remake for the PS5. You step into this dark, eerie kingdom of Boletaria, and right away, the atmosphere pulls you in. Each area has this unique vibe, from creepy, foggy swamps to towering castles and fiery caverns. One thing that really stands out in Demon's Souls is how it doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no big tutorial here. Just you, your sword, and the mystery of Boletaria. That might sound intimidating, but honestly, it's what makes this game so memorable. You're learning as you go, and every little discovery feels like a personal victory. And when you finally figure out a tricky pattern or beat a boss that felt impossible, that's one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming. And speaking of bosses, Demon's Souls has some of the best. Each one is unique, creepy, and requires you to stay on your toes and really study their moves. You'll probably get your butt kicked a few times or a dozen times, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. Each boss fight feels like a grand event. There's this tension in the air, and you're just waiting to see what insane move they're going to throw at you next. But when you finally bring one down, the victory feels so sweet, like you've just accomplished something epic. The game's mechanics are simple, but feel just right. It's not about flashy combos or crazy powers. It's about timing, patience, and learning from every mistake. Cyberpunk 2077. I know it had a rocky start, but seriously, it's a totally different game now after all the updates. The world of Night City is just wow. I mean, if you love getting lost in a huge, neon-lit, gritty open world, this game is perfect. It feels alive, you know? The city's got this cyberpunk vibe down to a T. Dark alleys, giant holograms, futuristic cars, the whole Blade Runner kind of thing. And honestly, I love how the game doesn't shy away from showing the messier side of that world, like the clash of high-tech and low-life. V, the main character, is super customizable too. I spent way too much time tweaking my character at the start, like more than I'd care to admit. But it's fun to play with all the different builds, whether you want to go full-on hacker, cybernetic brawler, or sneaky assassin. Plus, the augmentations, dude, that's the coolest part. You can literally replace parts of your body with cybernetic enhancements. Who wouldn't want a built-in katana arm or optic implants? What's crazy is how the story can change depending on what you do. Like, the choices really feel like they matter. There was this one mission where I was trying to decide whether to help these corporate types or betray them, and man, I was stressing over it for days. I couldn't stop thinking, what if I made the wrong choice? But that's the fun of it. There's no right or wrong answer, just how you want to play it. I will say the driving can be a little wonky at times, but honestly, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. Plus, the city's so massive, it's fun just cruising around, taking in the sights. Atomic Heart, Enchantment Under the Sea, the latest DLC for Atomic Heart, that's here to take the already wild ride even deeper, literally. This expansion throws you into the underwater depths of Facility 3826. Where you'll explore flooded labs and submerged chambers, adding a whole new layer of mystery and challenge to the game. The gameplay is familiar, but with a twist. You'll still be shooting, exploring, and solving puzzles. But now you'll need to deal with underwater environments that change everything. Visibility gets tricky, and the physics aren't quite the same. It's not just about fighting enemies anymore. It's about adapting to your surroundings, making each encounter feel fresh and unpredictable. And speaking of enemies, the expansion introduces new threats that keep you on your toes. These aren't just the same old foes from the main game. Expect to face enemies that require a bit more strategy and quick thinking. The arsenal in this DLC also gets a boost. You'll get your hands on new weapons and equipment designed specifically for the underwater combat you'll be doing. These new tools are crucial because they let you take on the new enemies with the right firepower and tactics. It's all about adapting and finding the best way to survive and thrive in this flooded world. One of the best parts of Enchantment Under the Sea is how it builds on the main story. It doesn't feel like just a side mission or something tacked on for fun. It feels like a real continuation that deepens the lore. The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I know this game stirred up a lot of heated discussions when it dropped, but let's be real, some of the hate was totally overblown. First off, people were divided right from the start due to the story direction. Without getting into spoilers, it's safe to say that the game took some big narrative risk. Naughty Dog didn't just play it safe with this one. They were like, nah, we're going all in. And while some fans weren't ready for those changes, that's exactly what makes the game bold. It wasn't afraid to challenge your emotions and expectations, and not every game dares to do that. Also, let's not forget how incredible the gameplay and world building are. Whether or not you agree with the story choices, the game is undeniably polished. The combat is intense, the environments are stunning, and the small details make the world feel lived in. Those aspects of the game were universally praised. And for good reason. The AI is surprisingly smart too. Enemies react to your tactics, work together, and even call out to each other by name, which makes it feel way more personal when you're in the thick of it. It adds this extra layer of immersion that's hard to ignore. Ultimately, The Last of Us 2 was unfairly hated by some, but over time, people have started to recognize its strengths. It's one of those games where, once you let go of the preconceived ideas and just take it for what it is, you realize how well-crafted and powerful it is. I think a lot of the initial backlash came from the hype and expectations. People had this picture-perfect idea of what a sequel should be. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If you played Final Fantasy VII Remake, you're already familiar with the epic world and characters, but Rebirth just takes everything up a notch. Midgar was this dark, gritty industrial setting in Remake, but Rebirth opens things up. You get to see more of Gaia, explore lush forests, massive plains, and mysterious ruins that feel like they're hiding 1,000 secrets. And then, there's the combat. Oh boy, if you thought the battles in Remake were good, Rebirth steps it up. It's still that real-time, action-packed combat system, but everything feels smoother and more refined. Switching between characters mid-battle is seamless, and they each bring something totally unique to the table. Cloud's powerful sword slashes, Tifa's quick martial arts, Barrett's massive gun arm. Everyone has a role, and you get to experiment with strategies that make every encounter exciting. And the materia system is back, so you're constantly tweaking your setups, figuring out the best combos for each fight. Oh, and the bosses? Unreal. Square Enix did not hold back. Each boss feels like its own mini-movie, with incredible animations, massive attacks, and a level of intensity that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's not just about the challenge. Each boss battle feels personal, like you're part of something epic. And the summons, summoning Ifrit, Shiva, or one of the other iconic Final Fantasy summons, just feels so satisfying. They show up, wreck shop, and leave you thinking, yep, that's why I love Final Fantasy. Disco Elysium. This isn't your typical video game. There are no epic boss fights, no laser-shooting guns, and no saving the world from a galaxy-ending threat. What you get instead is a deeply personal, weirdly hilarious, and sometimes emotional journey that sticks with you long after the credits roll. The premise is simple. You wake up as a detective with the world's worst hangover and zero memory of who you are or what you're supposed to be doing. Oh, and there's a murder to solve. But trust me, it's so much more than just a crime story. This is a game about choices, messy, chaotic, and completely human choices. And the best part, it never judges you for them. In most games, failing means you reload your last save and try again. Not here. In Disco Elysium, failing is just another part of the story. Maybe you'll bungle an interrogation, or maybe your attempt at a dramatic speech will turn into an awkward disaster. Either way, the game rolls with it, and often, the failures lead to some of the funniest or most touching moments. The way the game handles morality and themes is another standout. It's not about being a good or bad detective. It's about being your detective. You can play as a bumbling fool, a philosophical genius, or even a complete mess of contradictions. And the game never forces you into a box. It's about exploring who you are in this broken world. And trust me, some of the outcomes from your choices are hilarious. If you're up for a journey that's more about the questions than the answers, give this game a shot. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. This game takes everything you might expect from a grounded medieval experience and deepens it into something uniquely authentic and immersive. It's not about fantasy or larger-than-life legends. It's about the grit, struggle, and everyday decisions that define life in a time where survival often hinged on skill, wit, and understanding the world around you. The game focuses on realism in a way that feels deliberate and unapologetic. Combat isn't about swinging wildly or relying on flashy moves. It's technical, calculated, and it demands a level of precision that reflects the era it's portraying. Every strike, block, or dodge feels like a decision, a moment where patience and preparation matter as much as raw skill. Weapons and armor don't just look accurate, they function as part of a system that rewards study and strategy over brute force. Villages and towns aren't just backdrops. They feel alive with routines, struggles, and histories that you can choose to engage with or observe from the sidelines. Every location feels purposeful, every interaction meaningful in shaping your path. The survival elements remain a cornerstone of the experience. Keeping track of your health, hunger, and stamina is a constant reminder that this isn't a world designed to cater to you. Your equipment needs maintenance, your skills need refining, and your choices carry consequences that ripple beyond the immediate moment. There's a tangible sense of effort in everything you do. Need for Speed Unbound, a high-octane ride that throws you right into the heart of street racing with an unmistakable attitude. The focus is all about the thrill of the chase, the rush of the win, and the risk you're willing to take to make a name for yourself in a city that never stops moving. The gameplay is a perfect mix of adrenaline-pumping races, high-stakes police chases, and strategic planning. It's not just about crossing the finish line first, it's about how you get there. Do you take the riskier shortcuts, or do you play it safe and stick to the main road? Every race feels like a gamble, and the rewards always feel worth it. Winning is great, but outsmarting cops in a high-speed pursuit? That's a different kind of rush. Customization is where Unbound really shines. This game gives you the tools to create a car that's truly yours. It's not just about slapping on a coat of paint and calling it a day. You can tweak, upgrade, and style your ride to match your vibe. Whether you're going for sleek and stealthy or loud and flashy, the options feel endless, and every adjustment makes your car feel like an extension of your personality. The races are intense and unpredictable, with a variety of events that keep things fresh. There's a sense of progression that feels earned as you climb the ranks, build your rep, and unlock better rides. The competition is fierce, but that's part of the fun. The game is a love letter to speed, style, and rebellion. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Just have to say, it's one of those rare gems that genuinely impresses on every level. When Capcom decided to breathe new life into this classic, they didn't just update the graphics, they reimagined the entire experience. From the moment you start the game, the atmosphere grabs you. The detailed environments, the haunting sounds, and the meticulously crafted lighting all work together to create this incredibly immersive experience. It's like stepping back into Raccoon City with a whole new set of eyes. And the characters? Oh man, Leon and Claire are better than ever. Their voice acting feels authentic, their emotions resonate, and you really start to care about their journey. It's so much more than just a survival horror game. It's a story about resilience and courage in the face of unimaginable odds. The gameplay is also top-notch. The over-the-shoulder camera is such a brilliant choice. It adds a layer of tension and immediacy that makes every encounter with a zombie or licker feel intensely personal. And those moments when you're low on ammo, frantically searching for a safe room, they're the stuff of pure adrenaline. What's really impressive is how the remake pays homage to the original while still offering something fresh. The puzzles and level design have been updated, but they maintain the spirit of what made the 1998 version so special. It's like rediscovering an old friend who's now even cooler and more complex. Sekiro. I went in this game expecting something similar to Dark Souls, but nope. Sekiro has its own thing going on. It's all about timing, parrying, and mastering patience. You can't just hack your way through this one, but when you finally land that perfect parry, or take down a boss that's been wrecking you, it's the most satisfying feeling ever. The combat is so tight and precise. I love how it's focused more on skill than stats. Every fight feels like a proper duel, especially with that posture system. Instead of just slashing away, you're breaking down their defense to land that killer blow. It's a challenge, but man, when you get the rhythm down, it's amazing. And that grappling hook, dude, it's such a game changer. You feel like a legit ninja, zipping around trees, rooftops, and sneaking up on enemies from above. I can't count how many times it saved me from getting killed. It just makes exploring the world way more fun. Speaking of the world, the whole setting in feudal Japan is stunning. The environments are so detailed, from peaceful bamboo forests to war-torn castles. Every area has this mysterious beauty to it, and as you explore, you start piecing together the lore, which is so From Software in the best way. Now, I won't lie, Sekiro is hard. It can be brutal, but in a good way. I've died more times than I care to admit, but each death feels like a lesson. You can't just rush in. You've got to learn your enemies' moves, find their patterns, and perfect your timing. And when you do, it's like reaching some kind of gamer zen. Fallout London. Some people were quick to dismiss Fallout London just because it's a fan-made project. There's this unfair assumption that because it's not officially from Bethesda, it can't possibly be as good as a real Fallout game. And to be fair, fan projects can be hit or miss, but Fallout is seriously impressive. The team behind it went above and beyond, creating new factions, storylines, weapons, and even unique creatures inspired by British folklore. They've poured so much creativity into it that it really does feel like a genuine part of the Fallout world. It's set in a post-apocalyptic version of London, obviously, which is so refreshing for a Fallout game. We've spent so much time in the United States, it's just a whole new vibe to step into London and see how a totally different society and culture would handle the end of the world. And that's where Fallout London really shines. It brings this fresh, gritty British flavor to the Fallout universe. One of the coolest things about Fallout London is the factions. In classic Fallout style, you've got groups with their own twisted ideals and goals, but here, they're all inspired by British culture and history. There's this one faction that's essentially a throwback to medieval knights, and another one that feels like a punk rebellion straight out of the streets of London. It's so cool to see a Fallout take on British culture, and the factions feel unique and grounded, adding a whole new layer of immersion. Honestly, that's what makes Fallout London so exciting. It's different in the best ways, and it's exactly what the series needed. BioShock. It changes the way you think about storytelling in video games. It's set in Rapture, this underwater city that was meant to be a utopia. But when you arrive, things have clearly gone very, very wrong. From the moment you step out of that bathysphere and see the city for the first time, you know you're in for something special. The atmosphere is just dripping with tension and mystery, and it pulls you in immediately. The story is a masterpiece. Without getting into spoilers, let's just say that it's filled with twists and turns that keep you hooked the entire way. And the way the game tackles themes of power, control, and free will, it's on another level. The characters, like Andrew Ryan, are unforgettable, with some of the most iconic lines in gaming history. You're constantly questioning what's really going on, and by the time you get to the big reveal, it's absolutely mind-blowing. The combination of guns and plasmids gives you a ton of variety in combat. You're not just shooting enemies. You're using all sorts of powers like shooting electricity, freezing foes, or even setting them on fire. The game gives you so many ways to approach every situation, and that makes each encounter feel fresh. Plus, there are the Big Daddies, these towering, armored monsters that protect the little sisters. Every fight with them feels like a boss battle, and it's always intense. The moral choices in the game are another standout feature. You can choose to either save or harvest the little sisters, and those decisions have a real impact on how the game unfolds. Sniper Elite Resistance. Set against the gritty backdrop of World War II, it throws you into the chaos of an occupied territory where stealth and strategy are your best friends. The heart of the gameplay is sniping. But it's not just about lining up the perfect shot. It's about thinking ahead, reading the environment, and understanding how to use it to your advantage. The maps are vast and filled with opportunities for creative problem solving. Whether it's setting up traps or finding hidden vantage points, the game rewards exploration and clever thinking. It's the kind of game where you feel like every choice matters and every shot counts. One of the standout features is how much freedom it gives you. The game doesn't hold your hand or shove you down a single path. Instead, it drops you into these large, open areas and lets you figure out how to handle the mission. If you prefer sneaking around like a ghost, avoiding confrontation, the game fully supports that. If you want to go loud and make your presence known, that's an option too, though it's definitely more challenging. The balance between stealth and action keeps things exciting. The resistance element adds a unique twist. It's not just you against the enemy. There's a sense of being part of something bigger. You're not just completing objectives for personal gain, but striking a blow for a larger cause. This adds an extra layer of immersion and makes every small victory feel like it has a purpose. There's a strong emphasis on teamwork, even if you're playing solo. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. From the very beginning, you're dropped into this massive open world, and it's completely up to you what to do next. No hand-holding, no strict path, just pure, unfiltered exploration. One of the coolest things about Breath of the Wild is the sense of freedom. You see a mountain way off in the distance? You can climb it. You spot a random little forest on your way to a shrine? Go explore it. You might find a secret or even stumble on a side quest. And the game rewards you for being curious. Everywhere you go, there's something hidden, some surprise, some little detail that makes you feel like the developers thought of everything. And speaking of surprises, the physics and chemistry systems in this game are unreal. You can use the environment to solve puzzles in ways that feel totally unique to you. Like, if you're clever enough, you can create crazy solutions to puzzles that don't even feel right. But the game encourages that. You can even use metal weapons to attract lightning during storms or set grass on fire to create updrafts for your glider. It's like a sandbox that's just begging you to mess around and get creative. And let's not forget the combat. It's challenging, but in a really rewarding way. You don't just mindlessly hack and slash. You need to time your dodges, be aware of your surroundings, and think about your strategy. The weapon durability system is a hot topic, but honestly, it adds to that survival feel. You're encouraged to experiment with different weapons and tactics, which keeps things interesting. Uncharted, The Lost Legacy. Right off the bat, you can tell that The Lost Legacy is something special. It has all the cinematic action we expect from Uncharted, but this time, it's not Nathan Drake who's running the show. Instead, we've got Chloe, who's smart, witty, and honestly, she brings her own unique charm to the game. One thing that makes The Lost Legacy really stand out is its pacing. It's a shorter game compared to other Uncharted titles, but I think that actually works in its favor. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Instead, it packs all the best parts of Uncharted, the thrill, the exploration, the witty dialogue, into a streamlined, punchy experience that just flows. Every chapter feels meaningful, and there's no filler. You're either uncovering secrets, taking in stunning views, or engaged in some seriously intense action sequences. The combat feels great, and The Lost Legacy knows how to ramp up the tension. You'll be sneaking through enemy camps, dodging explosions, and getting into some pretty epic shootouts. Chloe and Nadine each have their own combat styles, which makes for some fun team dynamics. Nadine's more of a punch first, ask questions later type, while Chloe is a bit more of a thinker. Seeing them work together, especially in tight situations, is super satisfying. You can tell that Naughty Dog put a lot of effort into building their relationship. It's not all friendship and warm fuzzies. These two come from different backgrounds, and they've got a history that's, well, complicated. Doom Eternal, a game that's just pure adrenaline. From the moment you start, it's like the game grabs you by the collar and throws you into this insane, demon-filled chaos. The pacing is so fast and relentless, it makes you feel like this unstoppable force. You're not just playing as the Doomslayer, you are the Doomslayer. And it's awesome. One thing I love about Doom Eternal is how it forces you to play aggressively. You can't just hide behind cover and pick off enemies from a distance like in other shooters. No way. You have to get in their faces, constantly moving, switching weapons, and using your chainsaw to keep your ammo up. It's this perfect mix of strategy and brutality. There's no time to breathe. And honestly, that's what makes it so much fun. Every fight feels like a frantic dance of destruction, and once you get the rhythm down, it's such a rush. The combat loop is where it really shines. You're always juggling resources, health, armor, ammo, and you get those by fighting. Need health? Glory kill a demon. Low on armor? Set enemies on fire with the flame belch. It's a constant back and forth, and it makes every encounter feel dynamic. You never just shoot your way through a room, you're managing the chaos. And that's what makes it so addicting. And the weapons, man. Each one feels so satisfying. The shotgun, the plasma rifle, the BFG. It's all there. And it's all beefed up to feel more powerful than ever. Doom Eternal is an absolute must-play. It's intense, it's challenging, and it's just pure, unfiltered fun. No Man's Sky, one of the most controversial video game redemption stories out there. When this game first launched, it got slammed hard, like really hard. People were furious because they felt like they were promised the universe, literally, and what they got didn't live up to all the hype. You know how it is when a game gets hyped beyond belief, right? Expectations just go through the roof. The biggest issues at launch were things like missing features, limited multiplayer options, and overall a lack of the promised living, breathing universe that players thought they'd get. It was a huge deal at the time. Everyone was like, where are the massive space battles? Where's all the depth? Players felt misled, and it led to some pretty angry reviews. No Man's Sky became the poster child for overpromised and underdelivered games. But here's the crazy part. Instead of throwing in the towel, the developers at Hello Games just kept working on it. They didn't give up. And over time, they transformed the game into something truly special. Seriously, the updates have been absolutely massive. They kept adding the features players were hoping for, like base building, expanded multiplayer, better exploration mechanics, and more dynamic planets. Now, it's packed with content, and it's a totally different experience from what people saw at launch. It's honestly one of the most positive turnarounds in gaming. It went from being the game everyone loved to hate, to becoming a beloved space exploration game with a really dedicated fanbase. Gears 5. Even if you're new to the Gears series, trust me, Gears 5 is an amazing place to jump in. It's got everything you'd want in a blockbuster game, great characters, intense firefights, and a world that's equal parts beautiful and brutal. The combat in Gears 5 feels incredibly smooth, and every gunfight has that intense, cover-based strategy that makes Gears so satisfying. Popping out from cover, landing that perfect headshot, or getting up close and personal with the Lancer's chainsaw never gets old. There's something just downright satisfying about how combat feels here. Each weapon has a unique kick to it, so you're never just mindlessly firing away. It's all about timing and positioning. Plus, with the addition of Jack, your handy little drone buddy, you get some new abilities that mix things up in fun ways. He can cloak you, zap enemies, and even fetch items, so he's a true lifesaver in tight spots. And let's take a second to appreciate the world. Gears 5 introduces these open-world sections where you can explore on this sweet vehicle called the Skiff. Just zipping across the snowy tundra or the desert sands is a vibe all on its own. The world feels alive and dynamic, with lots of cool, hidden places to discover. It's not exactly a fully open world, but it's enough to let you roam around and soak in the atmosphere, and it really breaks up the action nicely. You're not just going from one big fight to the next. You actually have time to breathe, explore, and take in some amazing views. The story here actually has some serious depth. Little Nightmares 2. From the moment you step into its eerie, twisted world, you know you're in for a wild ride. If you enjoyed the first game, this one takes everything that made Little Nightmares so great and cranks it up a notch. The atmosphere is even more disturbing, the puzzles are more challenging, and the story, while still cryptic, pulls you deeper into this unsettling nightmare realm. You play as Mono, a new character, but you're not alone. 6. The protagonist from the first game is there with you, and having that companion dynamic adds a new layer to the gameplay. It's cool how the game makes you rely on each other to get through the twisted environments. You'll need to work together to solve puzzles, escape enemies, and navigate the nightmarish world around you. It's not a co-op game, but that teamwork element feels fresh and gives you a stronger emotional connection to the characters. The world in Little Nightmares 2 is just as unsettling as you'd expect. It's full of grotesque, distorted creatures that'll send shivers down your spine. The design of the enemies is one of the game's strongest points. Each one is creepier than the last, and the way they move and interact with the environment keeps you on edge the whole time. There's a constant feeling of being hunted, which makes every encounter feel tense and nerve-wracking. What's really great about the game is how it balances those intense chase scenes with quieter, more atmospheric moments. You'll go from heart-pounding sequences where you're being chased by terrifying enemies. Borderlands 3. The combat in Borderlands 3 is just pure, unfiltered chaos in the best way possible. You've got guns that shoot other guns, grenades that create black holes, and even weapons that yell insults while you fire them. It's not just about how many guns there are, though there are a lot. It's how creative and ridiculous they are. Every time you pick up a new weapon, you never know if it's going to completely change how you play, or just make you laugh out loud. And let's not forget the movement. They've really amped it up in this game. You can slide, mantle, and just zoom around the battlefield like a maniac. It makes every encounter feel dynamic and keeps the adrenaline pumping. There's nothing quite like sliding into cover, tossing out your action skill, and watching as absolute mayhem unfolds around you. Now let's talk about the world. Or should I say worlds? This isn't just Pandora anymore. Nope. Borderlands 3 takes you to multiple planets, each with its own unique vibe. You've got lush jungles, neon-lit cities, and even deserts that feel alive with danger and opportunity. It's a visual feast, and the art style? Still that iconic comic book-inspired look, but sharper and more vibrant than ever. It's like someone took a Saturday morning cartoon, threw in some chaos, and cranked it up to HD. Now, I know some people think the story in Borderlands 3 might be a bit wild or over the top, but that's kind of the point. It's unapologetically zany. And for me, that's a big part of the charm. Rise, Son of Rome. You know, when I first fired up Rise, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I'd heard mixed things over the years, but it really surprised me in a lot of good ways. Right from the start, the visuals pulled me in. I mean, this game is stunning. The world of ancient Rome looks so alive, from the grand architecture to the battlefields dripping with atmosphere. It's one of those games where you can just stop and admire the scenery. But Rise isn't just about looking pretty. The combat, while simple, is incredibly satisfying. Yeah, it's not the most complex system out there, but once you get into the rhythm of sword swings, dodges, and finishing moves, it feels epic. There's a real sense of power behind each blow, and the slow-motion finishers, pure cinematic brilliance. It made me feel like a gladiator, right in the thick of battle. The story, too, deserves some praise. Marius Titus, the game's protagonist, has a journey that's as much about personal revenge as it is about the fate of Rome itself. The way the narrative unfolds keeps you invested. And let's not forget the voice acting. It's top-notch, really bringing the characters and drama to life. One of the coolest things about Rise is how it captures the brutal reality of Roman warfare. You can tell the developers paid attention to detail, especially in the way soldiers fought, and how battles were choreographed. There's something genuinely immersive about leading your troops through a formation, calling out orders, and fighting alongside them. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you haven't played the Mass Effect series yet, you're in for a serious treat. And if you have, well, this remastered edition is the perfect excuse to dive back into one of the most iconic sci-fi RPGs out there. Right from the start, the game just grabs you. You're Commander Shepard, and your choices shape the entire galaxy. The stakes feel huge, but what's cool is that you're never just watching the story happen. You're actively making choices that change everything. And I mean everything from little side stories to major plot twists. It's one of those games where you actually feel the weight of your decisions. And that's rare. And the galaxy? It's incredible. You're exploring different planets, seeing all these unique alien cultures, and uncovering a rich sci-fi world with every mission. It's like living in your own sci-fi epic, from the action-packed battles to the quiet moments of exploration. The Legendary Edition really brings this world to life too, with upgraded visuals that make each planet and environment feel fresh, vibrant, and epic in scale. The combat is a blast too. Whether you're going full biotic powers or charging in guns blazing, there's a style that fits however you want to play. And with all the upgrades and tweaks in this edition, it feels smoother than ever, especially in the first game, which has been brought up to speed with the later ones. Plus, the Legendary Edition has smoothed out some of the rough edges, making it even easier for new players to jump in and get the full experience. Control. I remember starting it and thinking, okay, this looks interesting, but it just keeps getting weirder in the best possible way. You play as Jesse Faden, who walks into this super secret government building called the Federal Bureau of Control, and from there, things get strange. The whole game is set inside this massive, brutalist-style building called the Oldest House, and it's full of supernatural events, shifting walls, floating people. You've got this crazy service weapon that shifts between different forms, like a pistol that can turn into a shotgun or a sniper rifle. And then there's the telekinesis. Throwing objects at enemies with your mind never gets old. I remember picking up desks, chunks of concrete, even explosive canisters, and just launching them at enemies. It's so satisfying. And as you level up, you get more abilities like levitating, creating shields, and even mind-controlling enemies. It makes every battle feel dynamic because you've got all these powers to mess around with. The game also nails the whole mind-bending thing. The environments constantly shift and change. There's this one part, the ashtray maze, that had me completely blown away. It's like this surreal, almost psychedelic level where the walls and floors are shifting, and you're just flying through it, blasting enemies, while this killer rock soundtrack plays. So yeah, Control is one of those games that feels totally unique. It's got this perfect mix of supernatural weirdness, awesome combat, and a mystery that keeps pulling you deeper. Dishonored 2. It's like stepping into a living painting where every corner has its own story. One of the things I really appreciated was how they expanded on the original game's mechanics. The new powers are incredibly fun to use. For instance, Emily's ability to manipulate time is a game changer. I found myself replaying levels just to experiment with different ways to use her powers. It's like the game gives you a playground for your creativity. Corvo's powers are just as thrilling as ever, but they've added a nice twist with his new abilities. The flexibility in gameplay is fantastic. Whether you prefer stealth or going in with all guns blazing, the game supports both playstyles seamlessly. It's amazing how each mission can be approached in so many different ways. I spent hours just replaying levels to see how different strategies panned out. The story itself, absolutely gripping. The dual perspectives of Emily and Corvo offer such a fresh take on the narrative. I loved seeing how their choices and actions impacted the world around them. It's impressive how the game manages to weave personal stories with broader political intrigue. Also, the character interactions were top-notch. It felt like the NPCs actually had a life of their own, reacting to your choices and changing their behavior accordingly. It made the world feel more dynamic and alive. I found myself genuinely invested in the characters and their fates. If I had to nitpick, there were a few bugs here and there, but nothing that really detracted from the overall experience. Rage 2, a game that promised chaotic open-world fun, but didn't exactly blow everyone away when it launched. It's one of those games that had all the ingredients for success, but for some reason, it didn't quite stick the landing. Still, if you actually dive into it, there's a lot to love. What was the controversy here? Well, part of the issue was the huge expectations. The first Rage was pretty well received for its time, but it had some flaws. So when Rage 2 was announced, people were hoping for this massive improvement. Bethesda hyped it up with colorful Mad Max-style marketing and promised a game that was over-the-top and action-packed. But when players got their hands on it, some felt like the open world was a bit empty and didn't deliver on all that excitement. A lot of people also criticized the story, or the lack of one. The game didn't take itself too seriously, which in some ways was fun. The main narrative didn't really pull you in, and some players felt like the game's focus on pure action left the story feeling a little thin. If you were expecting deep lore or compelling characters, it might not have been what you were hoping for. But here's where Rage 2 shines, the combat. If you're a fan of fast, frenetic, chaotic gameplay, this is where the game really delivers. The gunplay feels tight, satisfying, and absolutely brutal. You've got all these cool powers and weapons that you can mix and match, which makes every fight feel dynamic and fun. It Takes Two. It's easily one of the most creative co-op experiences I've ever played. From the very start, you realize that it's not your typical platformer. It's all about teamwork. Whether you're playing with a friend, partner, or even someone you just met, the whole experience becomes this shared journey that's honestly so much fun. The level design is incredible. Every single level is packed with unique mechanics that are specific to that environment. 1 minute, you're in a garden where one player's watering plants while the other's chopping through obstacles. The next, you're in a clock tower, messing with time itself. It's never repetitive because each new area throws something different at you. The gameplay just keeps evolving. One of my favorite sections was when one of us could fly on this paper airplane while the other navigated obstacles on the ground. It's all about trust and coordination. What I also really appreciate is how the game balances difficulty. It's not too hard, but it does require you to think and communicate. There were moments where my co-op partner and I would be stuck for a minute, but it always felt rewarding when we figured it out together. You're constantly learning how to rely on each other's strengths, which is such a fun way to approach co-op. Honestly, what really stands out to me about It Takes Two is just how much fun it is. I mean, you're not just playing a game, you're sharing this experience with someone else, and you're both equally important to making it through the story. Whether you're laughing at the absurd situations or getting a little competitive with the mini-games of Detroit Become Human, it's one of those games where you're not just watching a story play out, you're actually shaping it. Your choices matter, and I mean really matter. The choices aren't always easy either. Sometimes you're like, what's the right choice here? And there's no clear answer. It's all about what you value, and that affects the relationships you build and the path you take. There's this branching storyline. So the game reacts to your choices in a way that feels organic. Each playthrough can be so different, and it's wild seeing how even small decisions can snowball into something huge later on. You play as 3 different androids, each with their own story, and the game does an amazing job of making you care about each one. You feel invested in their struggles, their choices, and what they want for their lives. The best part for me was the emotional weight. The game digs into some pretty deep themes: freedom, empathy, what it means to be human. And because it's so interactive, it really makes you think about what you do in these situations. By the end, you're not just playing a game, you're reflecting on your own beliefs and choices, which is pretty rare for a video game. And Detroit doesn't shy away from tension either. There are moments where you're genuinely on the edge of your seat, trying to make quick decisions that could totally change everything. And the stakes are high because, things can go wrong in big ways if you make a wrong call. So, yeah, Detroit Become Human is perfect if you're into games that let you dig into a story deeply, and that give you control over what happens. Forza Horizon 5. Even if you're not a racing game person, trust me, you'll still find something to love here. It's like a love letter to cars, exploration, and just having a good time behind the wheel. Remember when you used to race toy cars around your living room, making up little adventures as you went? Forza Horizon 5 brings that same energy, but cranks it up to 11. It's not just about winning races, though that's fun too. It's about playing. The freedom you have to do whatever you want is amazing. They've got everything from souped-up classics to hypercars that look like they belong in a sci-fi movie. And the customization. You can tweak everything. Paint jobs, performance, even little decals. It's like a car nerd's dream come true. But don't worry, you don't have to be a gearhead to enjoy it. The game does a great job of keeping things accessible. Whether you're a casual player or a hardcore racer, the controls are just buttery smooth, and the way each car handles feels unique. Want to go off-roading in a big, beefy truck? Go for it. Prefer zipping through city streets in a sleek sports car? Done. It's not just racing, it's an experience. And the best part? You don't even have to race if you don't want to. There are stunt challenges, speed traps, exploration events. It's like a big automotive playground. And the seasonal changes? Genius. The world evolves over time. So one week you might be racing in dry deserts, and the next you're dealing with torrential rain. It keeps things fresh and gives you an excuse to keep coming back. A Way Out. This game really caught me off guard in the best way possible. If you've ever wanted a true co-op experience, like a game where you have to rely on another person to progress, this is it. And it's not just some side feature. Co-op is literally baked into the entire game. You can't play this solo, and honestly, that's what makes it awesome. So, you're basically playing as these 2 guys, Leo and Vincent, who are trying to break out of prison. But it's not just a prison break game. It's so much more. You get to know these 2 characters, their stories, and how their lives are intertwined. What's cool is that both players control one of them, and each player has their own unique perspective and role in the story. It feels like you're part of a movie, where every scene is intense and meaningful. The way the split screen works is genius. Even though you're doing different things sometimes, like one person might be sneaking around while the other is in a fistfight, it all flows together. And you have these moments where you've got to coordinate with your partner, timing a move or making a plan to escape or fight. And when you pull it off, it feels so satisfying. You really need to communicate and work together, which makes it such a fun experience if you're playing with a friend. One of the best parts? The variety. You're not just breaking out of prison and that's it. No way. There are car chases, stealth sections, emotional moments, and even a few mini-games that you wouldn't expect. What I love is how the story keeps building. It's not just about escaping. It's about the relationship between Leo and Vincent. Devil May Cry 5. This game is just pure action-packed insanity. From the second you start, it's all high-energy, over-the-top combat, with Dante, Nero, and V, just going off in their own badass ways. The combat is smooth as hell, and juggling demons in the air while pulling off combos? So satisfying. I mean, it makes you feel like you're some rockstar demon hunter every second you're playing. And can we talk about the characters for a second? Dante is, of course, the legend, and his attitude is just as cocky and hilarious as ever. But I gotta say, Nero's new arm mechanic is awesome. You can pull off so many different moves with his devil breakers, and it adds a whole new layer to the combat. I love how every arm has its own unique feel, whether you're blasting enemies or zipping around the battlefield. Then there's V. At first, I wasn't sure what to think of him, but his combat style is so unique. Controlling demons to do the fighting while you hang back? It's weird at first, but when you get the hang of it, it's pretty damn cool. He's like this mysterious, edgy dude, but in a fun way. The boss fights, though? incredible. Every boss has this epic scale to it, and the game is great at making each fight feel intense without being frustrating. And the way the music kicks in when you're doing well, that's gotta be one of my favorite parts. The dynamic soundtrack literally gets better the more stylish you get, so it's like the game is rewarding you for being awesome. Honestly, DMC5 has some of the tightest, most fluid combat I've ever played in an action game. Horizon Zero Dawn. You ever play a game that completely pulls you into its world and makes you forget time exists? From the very start, it hit me with its vast open world and beautiful landscapes. It's like stepping into a future where nature and machines are in this strange yet fascinating balance. The contrast of lush forests, snowy mountains, and decaying remnants of the old world just blew me away. I'd find myself stopping, not to complete a mission, but just to take in the view. What really pulled me in was Aloy, the main character. She's strong, independent, and driven, but still relatable. Her journey to uncover the truth about her past kept me hooked, and I felt a connection with her that not many games manage to achieve. Every interaction, every choice made me feel like I was walking her path, not just controlling her through a screen. The machines in Horizon are some of the most unique enemies I've ever encountered. They're massive, unpredictable, and have this alien feel to them, yet they belong perfectly in this world. Each machine required a different approach, forcing me to think and adapt. It never felt repetitive. Instead, it kept things fresh, especially when you take down something huge like a Thunderjaw. I remember the first time I did, and it felt like a massive victory. The combat made me feel like a hunter, not just a fighter, and that added a layer of depth I really appreciated. The story also has a lot going for it. There's mystery, there's emotion, and there's this haunting sense of loss throughout the game. Fallout 4. This game is all about exploring a massive, post-apocalyptic world filled with adventure, surprises, and the freedom to forge your own story. Right from the start, you're stepping into a world that feels alive. Well, as alive as a wasteland can be. You emerge into this beautifully ruined version of Boston, and there's this sense of mystery about what happened, who survived, and how you'll carve out your place in it. One of the best parts about Fallout 4 is just how much freedom you have. Want to be a hero, saving settlements and helping people out? Go for it. Prefer to be more of a lone wanderer, exploring every nook and cranny at your own pace? You can totally do that too. The game really lets you make those decisions and watch as the world reacts to you, which makes it feel super personal. And the combat? Super satisfying. You can target specific body parts on enemies, which gives battles a bit of a strategic twist. Whether you're up against raiders, mutated creatures, or robots, every fight keeps you on your toes. And the weapon variety is massive. You can go from a simple pipe pistol to a full-blown laser rifle. Whatever fits your style. Plus, there's so much to discover. Every abandoned shack, rusted-out car, and hidden bunker has a story. Whether it's in the form of an old journal, a skeleton in an odd place, or a stash of supplies that makes you wonder who left it behind. Fallout 4 is full of these tiny details that make the world feel rich and layered, like you're uncovering secrets at every turn. The Witcher 3. Blood and Wine. This expansion feels like a full-blown adventure of its own. The moment you step foot here, you'll notice how vibrant and distinct the region is, filled with rolling vineyards, colorful towns, and plenty of mystery lurking beneath the surface. Combat remains razor-sharp and strategic, with plenty of opportunities to test out different builds, potions, and tactics. The enemies in Toussaint are as unique as the land itself, with new creatures and foes that challenge your skills in fresh ways. Whether you're engaging in swordplay, using signs to control the battlefield, or preparing for a fight with meticulous planning, every encounter feels satisfying. Exploration in Blood and Wine is an absolute highlight. Toussaint is filled with hidden treasures, intriguing side quests, and areas that beg to be explored. From quaint villages to ominous ruins, each location feels handcrafted and packed with detail. Taking the time to wander off the beaten path often leads to some of the game's most memorable moments, and the world rewards curiosity at every turn. One of the standout features here is the attention to customization. Blood and Wine introduces new armor sets, upgrades, and even a personal vineyard that you can enhance. It's a small touch, but it adds a layer of connection to the world. Toussaint is a land that feels alive, brimming with charm, danger, and opportunities to immerse yourself in its world. It's the kind of expansion that reminds you why The Witcher 3 is considered one of the best RPGs ever made. World War Z, this game is all about pure, chaotic fun, and it doesn't hold back. You drop right into the middle of a global outbreak, and from the first few minutes, it's non-stop swarms, loud gunfire, and the kind of team-based mayhem that makes co-op shooters such a blast. The best part? The zombies don't trickle in, they flood. Walls of them. It's wild, and it never gets old watching hundreds of them pour over ledges and down streets like a tidal wave of chaos. Gameplay is fast and focused. You've got different classes to choose from, each with their own gear and skills. And the setup works great whether you're rolling solo with bots or jumping in with friends. The teamwork feels natural, covering each other's backs, setting traps, holding choke points, and when it all clicks, it's incredibly satisfying. You really feel like you're surviving together, not just blasting through missions on your own. The missions are spread out across different parts of the world, and each one brings something unique to the table. You're in cities, subways, rooftops, always moving, always shooting, always under pressure. There's no time to relax. But that's what makes it such a good time. It's all about managing the chaos, keeping your cool, and making sure your squad doesn't get overwhelmed. There's a progression system that keeps you hooked. As you keep playing, you unlock better weapons, new perks, and gear upgrades that actually make a difference. Plague Tale Innocence. This is one of those games that really sticks with you long after you put down the controller. Have you ever started a game and almost immediately felt transported into a different world? That's what this game does. It's not just about the mechanics or the graphics. It's the story and the atmosphere that completely pull you in. Set during the 14th century, the game centers around a young girl, Amicia, and her little brother Hugo. From the start, you feel this sense of urgency, danger, and dread. I think what makes it special is the bond between the siblings. It's emotional. You genuinely feel Amicia's protective instinct for her brother, and it brings out this unique side of gameplay, where it's not just about survival, but about care and responsibility. The world itself is both beautiful and horrifying at the same time. I mean, yes, it's grim, the plague is spreading, the Inquisition is ruthless, and rats are everywhere. Seriously, if you hate rats, this game will challenge that. But the art direction is so stunning. I'd find myself just pausing to admire a landscape or the light filtering through a ruined building, even though I knew danger was everywhere. It's these little moments of beauty that make the darker, scarier elements hit even harder. What I found refreshing about Plague Tale is how it combines puzzle solving, stealth, and storytelling so seamlessly. You're not just mindlessly fighting enemies. Instead, you're constantly thinking, strategizing, and using your environment to your advantage. Resident Evil 5. Now, Resident Evil 5 does things a little differently than some of the other games in the series. It's not about creeping down dark hallways or fighting off sudden jump scares every 2 seconds. This one leans way more into action, and let me tell you, it does that action really well. One of the things that makes Resident Evil 5 stand out is its co-op gameplay. If you've got a friend to play with, this game is seriously a blast. You and your partner are constantly working together, covering each other's backs, sharing resources, strategizing against big enemies. And trust me, it makes the entire experience so much better. Whether you're playing as Chris Redfield or Shiva Alomar, you're both crucial to the fight. And that dynamic is what makes this game feel so fresh in the Resident Evil lineup. I remember the first time I played with a friend. We were yelling at each other, trying to stay alive, and it was chaos in the best possible way. Now combat here is amped up, and Resident Evil 5 fully commits to that action-packed style. You're fighting waves of infected, managing your ammo, using different weapons, and some of the encounters feel big and intense. I'm talking heart-pounding moments where you're surrounded, low on ammo, and desperately strategizing to make it out alive. The game's got this great mix of survival horror and all-out action that makes every fight feel like a scene straight out of a movie. But even if you're going solo, the AI partner, Shiva, if you're Chris, actually does a pretty solid job. Crash Bandicoot 4. This game is a wild ride that combines classic Crash nostalgia with fresh, modern twists that feel like a love letter to longtime fans and a great entry point for newcomers. It's a bit of a crazy platformer, full of vibrant, chaotic worlds, tricky jumps, and the kind of fun challenge that makes you feel like a gaming hero when you finally nail it. Now, If you've played the old-school Crash games, you know that platforming here isn't a walk in the park, and Crash 4 definitely stays true to that. It's challenging, sometimes rage-inducing, but in the best possible way. There's this huge sense of satisfaction when you master those jumps, dodge obstacles, and make it to the end of a level. It's like the game is constantly daring you to just try it one more time. And hey, if you're someone who loves going for 100% completion, this game has you covered with tons of collectibles, hidden gems, and alternate paths. One of the coolest things about Crash 4 is the introduction of the Quantum Mask. These are special masks you can collect that each give you a unique ability, like slowing down time or flipping gravity. They really shake things up and make you think about platforming in a new way. Each mask adds a layer of strategy and keeps the gameplay fresh. So even if you're 10 or 20 levels in, there's always something new to discover. The masks really give Crash, and Coco, if you prefer to play as her, a fun, super-powered feel without making the game any less challenging. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. The moment you step into the new content, it feels different, like you've entered a darker, stranger, and somehow even more intimidating part of the world. If the lands between were a fever dream, Shadow of the Erdtree is a full-on nightmare, but like the kind you don't want to wake up from because it's just too cool. Combat is as tight and brutal as ever. Whether you're a die-hard melee player, a magic enthusiast, or a mix of both, there are new weapons, spells, and builds to experiment with. I found myself tweaking my character constantly, trying out new strategies for every encounter. It's that classic From Software loop of getting crushed, learning, adjusting, and finally triumphing that makes the whole experience so addictive. And the bosses? Let's just say they're not here to play. They're here to humble you, to make you question every decision you've ever made as a gamer. But at the same time, they're incredible. Each one feels like its own mini-story, with designs and movesets that are as much a spectacle as they are a challenge. There's nothing quite like the adrenaline rush of finally figuring out that perfect dodge timing or landing the killing blow after a 15-minute duel. It's frustrating in the best way possible. But it's not just about the bosses. The enemies scattered throughout this expansion are no joke either. They're relentless, weird, and occasionally terrifying. One moment I was admiring the scenery, the next I was getting ambushed by some unholy abomination I couldn't even describe if I tried. It's classic Elden Ring chaos, and I love it. Dying Light: The Following. This expansion takes everything you love about Dying Light and cranks it up with a fresh, open-world vibe that feels totally different yet equally intense. It's a brilliant twist on the core game, throwing you into a sprawling countryside where the rules of survival take on a whole new dynamic. Gone are the tight, urban spaces of Heron, and in their place, you get wide-open fields, winding dirt roads, and eerie farmlands where danger feels like it could come from anywhere. The introduction of a customizable buggy is an absolute game-changer. This isn't just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. It's your lifeline in the countryside. Outrunning hordes of infected or plowing through them with your buggy's reinforced frame never gets old. The upgrade system for the buggy is incredibly satisfying, letting you equip things like flamethrowers, UV lights, and other tools of destruction. It adds a whole new layer to gameplay, making your vehicle feel like an extension of your survival toolkit. Exploration in The Following feels different from the base game, thanks to the vast, open environment. You're encouraged to venture off the beaten path, and the world rewards your curiosity with hidden secrets, abandoned buildings, and challenges that keep you on edge. It's not just about scavenging for supplies. It's about adapting to this new environment and figuring out how to use its openness to your advantage. The countryside may look serene from a distance, but it's anything but safe. Combat remains as visceral and thrilling as ever. The Crew 2. This is a game that feels like it was made for anyone who's ever looked at a car, plane, or boat and thought, yeah, I could probably do some wild stuff with that. It's not just about driving. It's about the thrill of being unleashed on an enormous open-world playground and turning it into your personal motorsports festival. Whether you're tearing through city streets in a hypercar, skimming over water in a speedboat, or pulling off insane aerobatics in a stunt plane, The Crew 2 doesn't just invite you to go big, it practically demands it. This game doesn't hold back when it comes to variety. One moment, you're weaving through traffic in downtown Los Angeles, and the next, you're roaring across the Mississippi River in a powerboat. And the best part? You can switch between vehicles on the fly. It's a seamless transition that adds so much personality to the experience. Want to launch off a mountain in your car, switch midair to a plane, and finish by landing in a river as a boat? The freedom here is absolutely unhinged in the best way possible. The map is massive, covering a condensed version of the United States. It's not just about the size, though. It's about how alive it feels. Highways stretch endlessly, countryside sprawls out invitingly, and cities buzz with a certain kinetic energy. Each location feels distinct, and the way the environments cater to the vehicles you're using is incredibly satisfying. Flying over the Grand Canyon or speeding across the swamps of Florida gives every type of vehicle its time to shine. The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. This game feels like a love letter to everything that makes Zelda so timeless while carving out its own unique identity. The gameplay is nothing short of genius. Every element feels carefully crafted to spark curiosity and reward creative thinking. Whether you're solving intricate puzzles or facing off against enemies with clever strategies, the game constantly encourages you to experiment. It's all about figuring things out in your own way, with tools and mechanics that feel fresh, yet unmistakably Zelda. The world design in Echoes of Wisdom is masterful. Every corner of the map feels alive, brimming with possibilities. You might stumble upon ancient ruins, strange phenomena, or unexpected encounters that lead to entirely new adventures. Exploration is at the heart of everything, and the sense of freedom is exhilarating. There's no set path, just endless opportunities to discover, learn, and grow stronger. Combat is another highlight. It's fast, fluid, and dynamic, with a focus on strategy and timing that keeps things exciting. It's not just about swinging a sword or firing an arrow. It's about reading the situation, adapting to the challenge, and using your arsenal creatively. Every battle feels rewarding, whether you're taking on a towering boss or a tricky group of enemies that test your reflexes and planning. Echoes of Wisdom is an unforgettable journey filled with heart, puzzles, and a world bursting with charm. Watch Dogs. You remember Watch Dogs? The first one? I feel like it doesn't get enough love. It's funny because when it first came out, everyone was hyped about the whole hacking thing. Yeah, it didn't fully live up to the insane expectations, but looking back, it was actually a pretty solid game. What really pulled me in was the whole idea of controlling the city with your phone. Like, you could hack traffic lights, cameras, basically turning the entire city of Chicago into your personal playground. There's just something so satisfying about sneaking into an enemy base and never even having to fire a shot. Just using cameras and distractions to mess with people. It made me feel like this tech-savvy mastermind. Aiden Pierce is a little brooding, and not the most charismatic character out there. But I kinda liked that about him. He felt like this guy driven by grief, and everything he did had this personal weight to it. I also loved how the city of Chicago itself felt alive. It's not just a backdrop, it reacts to what you're doing. If you cause too much chaos, people call the cops. And then you've got this whole cat-and-mouse chase through the streets, dodging police cars and helicopters. I had so many moments where I barely escaped by hacking a drawbridge or raising blockers just in time. The adrenaline rush from those moments was legit. I think it's one of those games that's way better than people remember. It had a fresh take on open-world action, with the whole hacking twist that really made it stand out. If you haven't played it in a while, I'd say give it another shot. It's got this cool, techie, modern, vigilante vibe of Dead Island 2. It's one of those games that after being in development for so long, you're just happy it finally exists. If you're into zombie games, this one is like a bloody sun-soaked vacation, where you can let loose and hack, slash, and smash your way through hordes of the undead. What's cool about it is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The game knows exactly what it is, a fun, over-the-top zombie slasher set in sunny California. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. First off, the setting is great. Instead of a gloomy, post-apocalyptic wasteland, Dead Island 2 takes place in a colorful, almost absurdly beautiful version of Los Angeles. They call it Hell A, and the contrast between the bright, glamorous world of Hollywood and the grotesque, decaying zombies is just awesome. You're running through luxury mansions, beaches, and fancy neighborhoods, all while the city crumbles around you. It's like you're on a demented version of a sightseeing tour. The zombies themselves come in all shapes and sizes, and they're not pushovers. You've got your standard walkers, But there are also faster, more aggressive types, like runners and screamers who can call for reinforcements. Some are armored, others are on fire or covered in acid. And each type forces you to adjust your tactics. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel fresh. You're constantly adapting and finding new ways to take them down, whether it's by using environmental traps, setting them on fire, or just going for headshots. Dark Souls Remastered. This game is an undeniable classic, rebuilt to remind players why it's become a benchmark for challenging, rewarding gameplay. It throws you into a grim and mysterious world where every encounter, every decision, and every step feels meaningful. This isn't just a game you play, it's a test of patience, skill, and determination. Combat is at the core of Dark Souls Remastered, and it's an art form here. It's all about timing, precision, and understanding your enemies. Every swing of a sword, every block with your shield, and every dodge roll feels deliberate. The game doesn't hand you easy wins. Instead, it challenges you to learn its rhythms and grow as a player. Defeating an enemy after a tough battle feels like a genuine accomplishment, and that sense of achievement never fades, no matter how many times you experience it. Exploration is another highlight. The interconnected world is full of hidden paths, shortcuts, and secrets that reward players who pay attention to their surroundings. It's not a linear journey, and you're encouraged to venture off the beaten path. Whether you're descending into a dark and eerie cave or ascending a crumbling tower, every area feels distinct and filled with its own challenges. The game's upgrade system is as deep as the world itself. It gives you the freedom to shape your character into the fighter you want to be. Whether you prefer to wield massive swords, master powerful spells, or outmaneuver your enemies with light weapons,